Hi everyone, Paddy here. Just a quick one to let you know the audio is not going to be quite as crisp this time. We had to record over Skype as we had some issues, so the audio won't be as buttery smooth as you're used to, but I assure you, the chat, it is buttery smooth.
Welcome back to O-T-H Humanities. This one, I think, is 48. Doing a brief bit of maths before we recorded it. This one's the Sony show, so we're going into Paddy Land, and the Paddy that we're speaking about is Mr. Patrick Stardust.
Hello, I'm alive.
Are you excited to talk about the Sony?
A bit.
Do it. You need to hype up.
Ooh.
There we go.
Oh
Wow.
yeah. Square buttons.
The kiss button.
Ooh. Who else is here?
Yeah. And Mr. James Carter. Okay, then, Reds.
The third side of the triangle button.
Okay.
It's pretty good.
That's all I've got.
Do you mean the pyramid
what passes
button?
for a joke from me, I'm afraid.
Do you mean the pyramid button?
Yeah, fair enough. Sure, why not?
I'm in all of your homes, fingering your R2. Anyway, so Sony had a pre-show before their main show.
They did.
And they had a list of games which Mr. James Carter said weren't good enough for the main show. So James, would you like to run through, or they didn't deem them good enough for the main show?
That's a
we'll
direct
do that,
quote.
yeah.
He said that like a minute before recording, so yeah.
I would like you to channel the hate part of Jim Ryan and the way that he says that indie games in a very small amount of time don't do anybody any favours. So I want you to really lay into these, smash them out, but give them their due from what you've said. We can all jump in like beautiful jaggies tearing at the flesh.
Maybe show us their developer, show us their face for a brief moment, and then move on.
So Sony had a show. They put together a show, and they clearly had too many games, so they decided what they would do is sit around for like 45 minutes before the show started and talk about as many games as they were going to release in the show anyway. So yeah, from their perspective, presumably Knack 2, the sequel no one wanted.
Apparently it is
Bullshit.
very good, though. Apparently it is very good. Everybody that's had their hands on it have said that it's really good. Even people that weren't crazy on the original, there were those people that had like a little bit of a soft spot for the original. All of them have said that it's really good.
I'm one of those people. I have a soft spot for the original. It's got problems. It's definitely.
Don't we all?
Hey, it's definitely got issues, right? So it's not like it's a 6 out of 10. Like it's not great. It's all right. But when it gets going, like when it all comes together, there's the bones in the first Knack of a really good solid platform. It's got some cool ideas. The whole growing and shrinking stuff is really really fun, and the tech that made that work was quite impressive. Seeing it get bigger and bigger, sort of bit by bit by bit, it looked great. So yeah, contrary to the entire rest of the internet, it would seem, I am that guy who's like, yeah, I'll play a Knack 2. Yeah, I'd definitely give that a go. I think give them a couple of years to work on that and come up with something new with that. I'd definitely give them a go. And everything I've seen of it looks fine. Like it looks solid.
I think you can get bouncy. I think there's a couple of things where I don't think people are realising sort of how good they are. This being one of them. And I heard an opinion today where somebody had hands on with that Super Lucky's Tale and said it's great.
Yeah.
You remember the one that sort of really probably did show itself off?
Mario knockoff.
Yeah.
Squirrel Fox platformer thing. Yeah.
Here's the thing though, Knack is like the problem with Knack at this point is that Knack became a bit of a punchline.
Knackered.
Yep.
Oh, good. It was definitely a punchline for a lot of jokes. Like whenever Plus games came out, like, oh, where's Knack, lol.
Sold well though.
Yeah, it did sell, but because it's the only thing out. But like, it's pretty much the only game for kids that came out at the PS4 launch. Really, there weren't awful lot out for kids to play. And to be fair, it's not really for kids. It's hard as shit. Like that game is difficult. Like it gets rough towards the end. I'd pretty liken it to like the first Rayman on the PS1 because that game is cuddly, friendly, beautiful to look at. And you get to about level 5 or 6 when you start getting to Bandland, and it kicks you in the dick over and over and over again until you cry.
Your mouth is rude tonight.
It's hot, man. It's getting hot and sweary up in this.
It's getting hot in here,
up
so
in this
take
bit.
off all my swears.
No, put on more clothes and sit in a different room.
And then get hotter and sweatier because you've got more clothes on.
Think about what it's going to be like when you go down to hell for speaking with that potty mouth.
Well, the temperature's probably going to be better down there, isn't it? So. But yeah, Knack 2 has become a bit of a running joke with the internet, and good work, internet, well done you. But I'm legitimately quite excited for this, and you get the usual people going, lol, Knack 2, but it's like, no, that looks fun. It's as I saw someone tweet before it came out, Sonic and Knuckles, and there is a blue one and a red one. Like, all right, fair enough, yep. And Mark Cerny, I love Mark Cerny. I think he's such a passionate, really just. He gives a shit,
Yeah, he loves games.
He loves games, and you can see
Easy
that.
way to say he loves games, and the man is walking video games. Absolutely.
Make games.
A Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, you think Knack 2 looks good? Sony disagree. They put it in the pre-show.
Yeah. Is that going to be the punchline for every game here?
Pretty much. Yeah. Crash Bandicoot, the trilogy so great that Sony named it after the bad guy.
That's true.
Oh, is that who that is? I didn't realise.
I think so.
Not even the bad guy from the first one. What was Insane from? Because it's Cortex is the main bad guy.
Oh.
I'm googling it now because it's driving me crazy. So Dr. Neo Cortex is the main bad guy. But I think Insane. Who's Doctor? Was there a Doctor Insane? Oh, this is going to fuck me right up. There was an engine. Thank you, Laura. And there was a Neo Cortex. There was no Insane. Shit. All right. Maybe there wasn't an Insane. I don't know.
Presumably the N bit is the relevant part there.
Maybe it's truly pronounced Sané, like excellent footballer Leroy Sané, who plays on the wing for Manchester City.
So it's Crash Bandicoot, the Nisane trilogy.
Yeah.
That's actually better.
Thank you.
Nisane.
What the chuff is Playlink?
Right, Playlink is the secret most interesting thing of this whole show.
Agreed.
Interesting.
Sony don't agree, they put it in the pre-show.
Nope. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Play the music.
It's almost like, that Playlink, that looks really good. Should we have it in the show? Go and walk for 45 minutes in that direction.
So Playlink. Did you watch the pre-show, CJ?
No.
Oh, here we go. Right, okay. Playlink. Here, let's explain it to this fool who didn't watch the good show.
Dare you?
The good half of this show.
I was dreaming about the Xbox.
Okay, yeah, you would. Okay, so the Playlink is it's like a what do they call it? Like social multiplayer? Yeah, that was it, wasn't it?
I'm pretty sure that was the term they used. I jotted down, but I can't quite remember.
Yeah.
But,
basically, it's a game, and you plug your phone into it, and you can then play a game with your phone. That sounds shit. That sounds shit, doesn't it? That sounds shit, doesn't it?
So the way I would explain it is, when you play them Telltale games, and you sit down with a friend or a partner or an interested other next to you, and one of you has the controller, and the other one makes the decisions, and you kind of talk it through, etc. This means both of you get a phone and you get to vote and get involved. So that is kind of the best way I can think of to explain this. That's not to say all the games. There's a collection of 5 games that will be out by the end of the year. The first one of which is coming soon, which they're kind of debuting it with, but the rest will all come kind of later on in the year. That's they're not all like that, but that's kind of an example of how this would work if it was a Playlink game, which Hidden Agenda, the first one they showed, kind of is.
Yeah, looked amazing, didn't it? Like I'm proper into that. So it seems like a detective-y sort of game, but you're each playing, like you've each got a say in what happens on screen, and at points you vote for stuff, and sometimes it'll ask like one player what they think, and they've got to decide what's happening. Like brilliant. That looks really, really good. Like
Yeah, and like them board games, where one of you is actually working against the group, but nobody else knows it. That's the hidden agenda. Is players will sometimes get, because they've got their own phone that no one else is allowed to see, and it will tell you when you're supposed to cover your phones up. It will give specific instructions to individuals that might fly in the face of what others have to do. So it's got that sort of stuff going on.
It's just sort of, like you say, it's your board game traitor mechanic. I
Yeah,
like those
exactly,
sort of
yeah.
things. I'm really into that. Do you know what this reminded me of? It reminded me of in Futurama when they go see the Calculon film. And it's interactive. So if you want Calculon
choose
to
your
go
own
to the fireworks factory and have a big explosive chase, press 1. If you want to see Calculon do his taxes, press 2. You press 1. You press 2. No, I didn't. I'm almost certain you did. It's that, but like real, like and it's made by the Heavy Rain guys.
Supermassive Games as well.
Yeah, it's the not Heavy Rain, sorry, the Until Dawn guys, isn't it?
Until Dawn guys who put out Until Dawn Rush of Blood on VR, and later on in the real show have another VR game coming. So they've been clearly going great guns after making new stuff.
Bit busy, aren't they? But yeah, I thought Hidden Agenda was the standout game of these ones. I didn't really get along with That's You.
Really?
I just thought it looked like dross. It looked like wank. Everyone take a picture of yourself and then draw on it. I know
sounds good to me. As party games go, sounds good to me.
Maybe, yeah. It looked a little bit. It looked a little bit like, I don't know, fluff. It didn't look like a game. It just like
your party's more
like
realistic than that, Paddy.
Hey,
your party's more realistic than that.
We go and play board games.
You don't take photos for a start. You do hand drawings of one another. You do
Yeah,
charcoal,
I don't know.
charcoal sketches of one another.
Stretches out on his chaise long and talks about the war.
I draw pictures of myself and place them on the wall.
2000 AD.
That's a callback.
That's something I've not heard for a long time.
I thought this looked like good fun where everyone gets involved, taking pictures and, as you say, doodling on them. And again, bit like a sort of board game where you'd be doing like a Pictionary or one of the other ones where everyone gets to laugh at people's crappy drawings.
And it's ones where you have to like choose, like so you're playing together and it says choose the person who'd be most likely to, I don't know, fuck a duck.
Or, throw off a cliff or whatever, yeah. Probably not throw off a cliff.
I don't know. I think that'd be a more interesting answer. I think you could get quite personal. Choose the player who you think is hiding the biggest secret. And then they have to tell you.
But yeah, stuff like that. Stuff that would be sleepover / party / get-together style games where you can just do some daft stuff, and because everyone has a mobile phone, everyone can get involved. And you don't have to buy multiple 40 quid controllers or pass the controllers.
Do you know what I want to see them putting into this? I want to see them do a buzz with this.
You know what I want to see them do? A SingStar.
Are they doing one?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
They mentioned the name of the other 3 games, but no information about what they are. One's SingStar Celebration. I don't know whether it's going to be using your phone's mic to actually sing or who knows what. Another one called Frantics, not a clue. Another one called Knowledge is Power, which does sound a little bit kind of
the quiz.
Board game, Trivial Pursuits, quiz. Kind of harking back to the 360 days where there were lights, camera, action quiz games came out and stuff like that, which seemed to have gone the way of the dodo. And I know they were all a little born out of Wii's party game craze, but I actually enjoyed having that stuff as an option.
I would argue they came out of the
involved, from
the PS2, from the Buzz era.
I
was in on Buzz from day one. I loved those. I've still got 2 sets of the controllers, and we do bust out the odd 8-player game of the movie one or the music one on PS3. Buzz games are still really funny. Like some of my favourite multiplayer game time ever has been had sat in a front room with my mum and dad and my sister and another half screaming at each other over Buzz. My friend Ian punched me so hard in the stomach I couldn't breathe for about a minute over Buzz because he kept giving me questions like, you're not going to know this one, and I got it right, and he got so angry he hit me.
Are you sure it was over Buzz and not just
definitely
for a
Buzz?
while?
He went on to be the best man at my wedding, so we got over it. Buzz is so much fun. I love Buzz. Like those sort of quiz games are just so much fun. And if they could make one of those, if that's what Knowledge is Power is going to be,
absolutely. If they can do that sort of stuff with this, that's what makes me interested. Not because I'll ever use it, don't have friends, but because I remember back to a time when there were
Oh,
games
James.
that friends were.
Oh,
I
James.
just-
It's a cry for help if ever I heard one.
My therapist doesn't know. It's fine. No, I think there is a hole in the, like we talked about Just Dance. That kind of is last man standing a little bit, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to party games. 1-2 Switch came out, that kind of thing. But there is, I think, a bit of a hole for good games like this. And why have to dig out the dusty old Buzz controllers when, as I say, everyone's got a mobile phone?
You don't dust your Buzz controllers.
Well, but I wouldn't want dust to get in the way and stop
you
you
don't
from
keep them in
from
a sealed,
winning
hermetically sealed
at Buzz.
unit. You don't display them in a hermetically sealed glass cabinet.
Only to my friends, which
And I
as
thought
I
you
said,
were
are imaginary. So.
And I thought you were a gamer. So yeah, no, I'm into this.
that's
Play
Playlink.
Links. CJ, does that sound like something you would play?
Never in my life.
Great, brilliant.
Good stuff.
Imagine Nintendo Land, but it's a quiz.
Don't do that.
So
I like imagining Nintendo Land because we had fun.
Imagine Shadow Complex, but it's made by Housemarque makers of Resogun.
I've not played Shadow Complex or.
Okay, imagine
Resogun.
a Metroidvania game, but made by the folks from Housemarque who made Resogun.
I liked
I've not
Resogun.
played
I was a
Resogun.
big fan of Resogun, and I didn't like anything else I ever played that they've made. They did Dead Nation, didn't they?
Dead Nation and Alien
Oh, I like
Nation.
that. I enjoyed
But
that.
That
then,
one I didn't like. No, I didn't get with that one.
Resogun and Super Stardust are kind of the other end of their gaming. But twin sticky shootery things tend to be up their street. I haven't played Dead Nation or Alien Nation, but I imagine they're twin stick shooters, just where you're shooting at zombies and aliens rather than
Pretty much.
pretty lighty, flashy things.
This
Matterfall.
it seems to be quite not Ikarugari, but that kind of colours are very important.
Yeah. Their aesthetic is certainly a big part of why I have enjoyed Resogun primarily, but Super Stardust as well was very good from the sort of Geometry Wars end of the spectrum. And there's been multiple versions of them. They've been given away on Plus, I'm pretty sure, at one time or another. The PSP or Vita versions were.
I think Resogun was like
Matterfall.
the first PS4 Plus game, I think.
Resogun was a launch game, and I'm pretty sure you're right. I think it may well have been the first one that got added to PS Plus, and heck of a game it is. I haven't spent enough time with it to get good at it, but it's one of those where I'm playing it, and as I started playing it, you realise layer by layer all this extra stuff you're supposed to be doing and paying attention to, and it's just fantastic. But Glory, it was another game that went after the particle effect stuff, so it's incredibly beautiful, I think, on screen.
Yeah, that bit where you finish the level and the entire screen just explodes in a firework magnificence. It's so good.
Yeah. And this looks up my street. A Metroidvania in the style of a Metroid or a Vania or a Shadow Complex for the teenagers, shall we say? Because the kids aren't going to know that one.
YouTube pair.
But
Like, share, and
this looks
subscribe.
good, and is coming out in August. But they have today, as of recording, released a different game. So they're piling the games out as well. They've released Nex Machina with Eugene Jarvis, which is a Robotron sort of hark back. And this one, Leon did mention what game he felt this was a hark back to. Can't remember.
We're not cutting, so find it quickly.
Doesn't matter. But yeah, so they've got Matterfall coming as well, and both look very nice. Thank you very much.
It looks fun.
But Sony don't like the look of them, because what have Housemarque ever done for Sony? So pre-show.
Pre-show bullshit. What's the next piece of pre-show bullshit?
Everybody's Golf is now called Everybody's Golf all over the world. No more of this Hot Shots Part Poo.
Everybody's Golf is supposed to
That
be
was the
quite
most
good, isn't it?
childish joke, and it's the one that's got me the worst.
I apologise, people. It's been a day. Everybody's Golf is not only called Everybody's Golf everywhere in the world, but now you can do kart racing and swimming and fishing while you're on the golf course.
Way! Alright,
All
so
in
the thing
the
with
Everybody's Golf style.
there are about 6 games called just Everybody's Golf.
Yeah.
There's the PS1 one, there's the PS3 one, there's the Vita one that are just called Everybody's Golf with no subtitle whatsoever. Like,
Well, I suppose as long as they're on different systems, you just have to say Everybody's Golf PlayStation 4 and you get the right one.
yeah, I don't know. It's inelegant. Call it like
Sure.
Everybody's Golf Festival. Because you've got the kart racing and the swimming and the fishing.
Yeah, sure. Everybody's Golf and other stuff.
Everybody's Golf things your dad does.
Everybody's Golf, but some of us are going to do other stuff too.
Everybody's Golf if you feel like it.
Yeah, I haven't played. I didn't play the Vita version. Heard very good things about it. It came out at launch, I think, didn't it?
I did. Let me tell you about it. I've played the Vita version. I fucking love it. The Vita version
Excellent.
is what convinced my dad to get...
Take up golf?
Well, he already was a golfman.
All right.
He was a golf boy. I just got the Vita. I'd had the Everybody's Golf... I think I bought the game, actually. I think it's the first one I bought. I had that on the table, and they came round, he picked it up, and he had a go, and he put it down. And he picked it up, and he had another go, and he put it down. This went on like 5 more times. I was like,
Just one more hole.
yeah, you enjoying that, Dad? He went, yeah, it's quite good, this, isn't it? I went, do you want my old PSP? Because I don't need it anymore. I went, oh, can you get this on there? I went, I'm sure I can find one. So I did a bit of Googling and found Everybody's Golf PSP with no subtitle, and found that and passed it on to him. And at the time, he was trying to quit smoking. And this gave him something to do with his hands to help him with the quitting of the smoking.
Oh, cool.
And it worked for a while because he's smoking again now. But like that was a good 5 years ago. He's lasted the longest he's ever lasted.
Then he lit up his PSP and it killed him. The fumes.
He's been trying.
It went up like a Samsung Galaxy.
He's been trying his a vape, but it's not going particularly well, from what I understand. But no, like that. Everybody's Golf is just like it's. I really, really like the Vita one. It was. I got about probably halfway through the campaign mode before I kind of just stopped because I wasn't that good at golf anymore. But it's really just it's a good, pleasant kind of not nothing kind of game, but it's something you can play when you're watching the telly or something you can play when you've got something else going on because it's quite simple. Just point the thing, hit the ball, see where it goes. Like,
do we feel like it's something that is more suited to a handheld than a big screen? Because I'm assuming this is PlayStation 4 rather than Vita, given we already have and Everybody's Golf on the Vita.
Well, I think the reason, because they're making this one like a big multiplayer, everyone jump in with your mates, let's all play some golf together. Yeah. Like, and it seems like you can all just do it at the same time, which is kind of fun. Like, you're not waiting for 4 people to take a shot before you can have a shot. I went into that, well up for it. And the extra bits on the outside, they're probably going to be quite average. You know, the kart racing is probably going to be, the fishing's going to be, it's all about the golf.
Yeah,
really.
There'll be a distraction, but that's fine.
Yeah, that's the thing you play to unlock the stuff to make your guy look cooler.
It's not like they're making a whole VR game out of the fishing or anything. It's in the game. It's there.
No,
if you want to do it,
not.
it's fine. Leave it if you don't.
No, absolutely right. Yeah, completely right.
Save it for the show.
But it's in the pre-show because it's bullshit. Nobody likes golf.
Gran Turismo Sport is the presumably, much like men's aftershaves, the cheap knockoff version of Gran Turismo.
See, I'm not up with
the
Gran
halfway
Turismo.
house.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I don't know if it's just more motorsport focused or supercar focused or whatever. Or
Don't they
what?
normally do like a version that's just there, like gimped to get people to buy it before they actually get round to
That's what they
releasing?
did for the last one, wasn't it?
Prologue
The
was
last two.
something, yeah.
And it has to be said, why do people that make sort of Gran Turismo, how they can look in the direction of, is it Turn 10?
Turn 10,
who
yeah,
do
Turn
Forza and who've been
We've
putting out
surpassed them in number of games at this point.
quality car games for the serious enthusiast.
And cars as well.
Yeah, I mean every 2 years there's a new one.
Yep.
And
in
what are
between
they
times
talking
there's a
about,
Horizon one. Yeah.
Well, from what I understand, the developer, the lead guy, is it Kazunori Yamauchi? That's right, isn't it?
I don't know.
The Gran Turismo guy. The guy who runs Polyphony, you know.
Digital, isn't
Yeah,
it?
they've been running it for like 20 years now, you know. Was it part of the pre-show, or was it later on? I watched a video where he was talking about how usually with a Gran Turismo they kind of take the last game and kind of build on top of it. Whereas this is for the PS4. Like this is the first time they've built everything from scratch. Like,
Don't really wash though, does it?
well, I don't know. You know, it's like this is
Nah.
like it feels like the first like new one we've done in a really long time because they're kind of just building it from the very beginning.
Again, you look back to Turn 10, and you know they've motored on from the very
Yeah,
pun
that
intended.
means we should have
Very
had
good.
more Gran Turismos before this point. That's him throwing previous iterations under the bus for taking too long, isn't it?
Yeah, but the way he
Saying
said it
they
as well,
always
like
built off-
he was talking about the team that they've got there, you know, and he said, you know, we've worked really hard to make sure that everybody here is the best person we could find to do the job they're doing. So we have like 140 irreplaceable people right now. And I was like, well, that's nice. He's bigged up his team really well there. You know, he's really happy. And his office just has a piano in it.
This
his main
just
computer.
sounds like when you get a question in the exam and you just try to fill out the space in as much with as much waffle, but vaguely in the same ballpark as you can. What a load of chuff! Get a grip, you twat! You've taken forever on it. And to
Okay,
quote from Pab, it's cars.
let me give you the counterpoint on that. Let me give you the counterpoint. He's quite a perfectionist, it seems. I think he wants to release things when they're done. Is that not something? Is that not something to be admired? Release it when it's done, rather than release it after.
R.R. Martin of video games,
Put it out
and
when
in the
it's
same
done.
way as George R.R. Martin has done endless walking books with the odd bit of shagging in. This is somebody that just gets in a car and doesn't even have the decency to stop and have sex.
I tell you what, absolutely, I agree. If he was that much of a perfectionist, he wanted to put out the perfect game. But it was the last Gran Turismo where they only had like a third of the cars with fully detailed interiors.
I
And
saw- was it like the
weather
really
got
cheap
patched
Mini
in
that had like
afterwards,
a-
didn't it, or something?
Had like a
It
PA
was like
system.
Drive Club levels of this game wasn't really finished and was rushed out by the end. It's
Yeah.
like, well, if you're a perfectionist, do it perfectly. It best be the most perfect, best car game ever to have been produced, if that's the case. Because otherwise, let's have a look at Turn 10, see what they're doing. I'm not a particular fan of Forza Motorsport games or Gran Turismo games, but one of them's made 7 in the time it's taken the other to make 1.5.
But you must
And
be a
in
fan of car, though, right? You like car.
Yeah, but in between, as James was saying, they've done an arcade racer, and both are of like massively high caliber and appeal to probably different people. Forza Horizon's a superb game, and you know you tech enthusiasts are all over the regular stuff. This to me, somebody needs to give that lad a slap.
Apparently it's Sony, because pre-show only, mate.
Pre-show, yeah, doesn't matter.
Don't make the full show.
The thing
Yeah,
with Gran
doesn't-
Turismo, though, it
doesn't
doesn't
count.
matter how long it takes to come out, it will still sell absolute goddamn gangbusters. They always,
course it will.
always
Yeah,
do.
of course it
Yeah,
will. Yeah,
because it's Gran Turismo. I remember owning the first one on PS1 thinking, this looks real.
Yes.
And showing my
But it
dad,
doesn't
and my dad
matter.
was like, wow, that's really real looking.
Yeah,
Wow.
that
I remember those days. They were fun days.
Yeah. Speaking of it looks real, Superhot VR.
I've still not
Yeah.
played Super Hot. I've heard it's really
Supposed to be very good.
Oh, it's good. It's good. Get it played. It was right up there as one of my favourites of last year.
Oh,
Imagine
so
this will
Super
work
Hot
really well
is-
in VR, actually.
This is the one where the world only moves when you move.
Exactly that. Yep.
So when
First
you finish,
person shooter.
does it replay what you did?
Yes.
Good, because like I'd never like found out that. I know I could have just googled it, but it's like that needs to
Yeah,
be
yeah,
the
no,
end.
that's-
Like
that's
show
the
me
big
what I
thing.
did
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
speed mode and make me look damn cool.
Exactly. Yeah, that's perfectly it. It shows you the run that got you success, which makes you look like a balletic angel descending upon the world to wreak your havoc. Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah,
sweet.
good stuff.
Oh, because I like this. I like this in Towerfall. When you finish a match of Towerfall, you kind of get to replay it and see what you did, and especially if you're playing like with the slow mo power up on, and like the last couple of shots are really kind of twitch, dodge, move, sudden movement, and then it plays it in regular speed, and it's like wow, I'm brilliant at this game.
Well,
the
especially. Sorry,
we-
go on.
No, I was going to move on. Doesn't matter.
Do you know there's a card
well,
game in Super Hot coming?
A cart? No, I don't think.
There's a card game coming where you've got a deck of like obstacles to beat, which is like dudes or things to jump over, and then you have to play cards from your deck to kind of get through them.
Oh, cool.
It looks neat, and it's got the
Interesting,
visual
yeah.
style. It looks like the game. It's
Yeah.
just really stark reds and whites, and really kind of
Yeah.
like good visual. I've heard it's quite good. I've been reading some previews. It sounds like it could be a good laugh.
Worth saying possibly that Superhot VR is, as I understand it, a different game to Superhot. So feel free to go ahead and play Superhot, the original, and then if you have access to a VR headset, then go and play that one afterwards. But yeah, coming to PlayStation VR this summer.
So we've then got
good.
S Park, where you take the careers of former pop band S Club 7 and you take them to a theme park in France and you start to build their career back, but also rides.
Wow.
It's not true, is it? It's called a Spark, is it?
I read it
with a C.
It's craps backwards, isn't it?
Sparse.
Craps.
It actually is. You're right.
Unfortunately, it's craps backwards. They can't have failed to notice that, and they went with it anyway. Fair enough.
Who wants to make some back craps? So what is Spark? Because I don't remember this one very much.
It's Pong in VR. It's Tron-ish visuals with you're playing tennis.
Oh.
With your hands.
Good.
Yeah, it's air hockey or whatever. You're bouncing. They call it a disc, but may as well be a ball off the walls at your opponent, and they're hitting it back with like a hand paddle thing that you kind of you flap at the disc with. Probably in VR in first person, yeah, probably Ace, but it's Pong in it.
My worry with that is the same worry I have with all VR games that it require you to move your arms more than a fraction. Is that is asking for you to punch something important?
Yeah, you're going to break your fist on the
Doesn't
wall.
Doesn't matter
or
where you sit. You're going to punch your fit, like the wall or like the computer or your wife. Because I didn't punch my wife while I was playing with a PlayStation VR headset. I wouldn't dream of doing that by accident, and that didn't happen once.
Yeah, it does seem ripe for accidents. I presume there are multiple disclaimers you have to click through before you play the game. Because
are you in a padded room? Is there anyone in a 5-mile radius?
Is there at least a 10-meter space around you? Yeah, plus wires as well.
Oh God,
always good for that sort of thing.
Ping your headset off because you went for a cool bank shot.
Yeah, or strangle yourself on something because you dove in the wrong direction at the wrong time.
What a shit reason to die. Cause of death, Pong VR.
That's one of those. That's one of those. If I die, will you come and untangle me from the wires that I'm choked on?
Is that? Hang on. Is that the new hiding somewhat, like getting rid of the porn agreement?
Getting rid of the internet browser history, or taking the soaked orange out of your mouth and
unstrapping the tie from your neck.
We shouldn't be laughing at people who died doing what they love.
Well, Pong VR, it's to die for. But not that much because it's on the pre-show. Hey! Fucking pre-show. What's next?
It is a heck of a good pre-show, and up next was Tropico 6, which I think had been announced, but no one had seen anything of it. So putting this on a console show, kind of significant, I think.
Oh, has it not been announced at all?
It had been announced, I think, a couple of weeks earlier, but no one had seen anything of it. This is the first kind of... it was a CG trailer, but it was the first footage of it, and to put it on a console for what is a game that's at home on the PC. It has been on console before, but...
It was on Plus
a
while ago on PS4. It was Tropico 4.
Yeah. 4 or 5 probably, yeah.
Yeah, it didn't really get on with, but I assumed this was a port of one that was already out. I mean, for me, the Tropico games, I don't really follow them, so they kind of just blend into one.
Yeah. Plus would be the only time you would come into contact with it.
Yeah.
But nice to see here. I played the intro to possibly a 4 as well. Might be a 3. And yeah, seemed interesting. Obviously leans very heavily into the South American dictatorship
Banana
kind
Republic
of aesthetic.
Yeah.
But yeah, coming in 2018, and Sony decided it was a good one for them to show, but not in the show.
Not in the show, but I mean, it's a good grab, like you say. It's a good grab, one that I'm not familiar
with. Yeah, great for Calypso Media. I heard someone say that this was new developer. It's still Calypso Media Publishing, but it may be a different development team within. I'm not sure why that should be the case. Whether it's just how long it takes to turn around a Tropical. or whether the original Tropical developers are working on something else. I did try to look into it, but beyond Calypso Media, I couldn't really find out much about who it was developing.
Don, we dealt with people that have made Tropico and Omerta in a previous podcast, didn't we?
Did we?
We did.
Had a moment.
Omerta sounds familiar.
Yeah, because I'm sure it was in the indie lineup in the Xbox show. Let me see what I can find.
So Tropical 5 was developed by Haimimont Games?
No, this was a different one. I'm sure it began with a B.
Haimimont.
Don't know if I've still got
We are now developing Surviving Mars.
Well, that could be
that might be right. Yeah,
Omerta and Tropical 5 are now doing Surviving Mars, which is being published by Paradox Interactive. And I'd made mention of Paradox Interactive because they have only ever put games out on PC previously, but Surviving Mars is actually coming to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One as well. The circle is complete. Look at that. I didn't even know we were doing it. And
that's brilliant.
Thank you, CJ. You have made me feel like sometimes luck is on my side. So yeah, there you go. New development team, because the old development team's making Surviving Mars. Cool.
Who was next?
That they're Undertale coming to PS4 and tantalizingly the PlayStation Vita.
First Vita mention of the whole conference. Everyone have a drink.
Only Vita mentioned the whole conference, I think.
Everyone have a big drink.
Vita's not going to make the main show, let's be honest.
Have a big drink, everyone.
Yeah, pour one out for the Vita.
Yeah,
I'd like to play this.
This is a great
grab.
This is a good grab.
I think this is kind of a big enough deal that they could have put it in the main show and it would have added a little extra something, because it's a popular game. There's an
indie game coming this year. Something for the Vita. Sony says no. Sorry. But nice to have it here.
It's kind of permeated culture as well. Like Undertale is so big online. Like I've tried. I've had a quick go at it on the PC. I didn't quite click with it. I think again because I don't really click with games on the PC. But like I've got a lot of.
Often people click with both mice.
Oh.
And on keyboards.
Oh.
Often they left click with games on the PC.
They do. And sometimes right click if they want to look at something. But yeah, I didn't gel with it, and I wanted to because I've got a lot of exposure to the soundtrack. Like the soundtrack comes up in a lot of internet videos.
Is quite special.
There's the track called is it Megalovania? That's one of the boss themes that I've seen a remix of for a JoJo video, and absolutely rocked my shit. And it took me 6 months to work out that it was from Undertale.
So
good.
About the only thing going against Undertale is that it is so highly spoken of that I know for one, Sean Bell, him off of Midnight Resistance and the Computer Game Show, has actually wanted to but never started playing it because every time it's recommended to him, it's with such high praise that it's one of those, is it ever going to live up to? So what I would say is, if you're going to play Undertale, give it time, take it slow. It's one where you're going to have to work out how to play the game. And don't be afraid of asking folks or just working it out and not worrying if you're not sure what you're doing. But yeah, it comes to PS4 and Vita. The more people get hands on it, if that means it comes to PlayStation Plus at some point, or if it's kind of cross-play type thing, I think it would be a great thing to have on the Vita, and then potentially pop up onto your PS4 when you come home from a long, hard, hot day's work. And after you've played enough or finished even the game, why not listen to Kane Rins?
Jesus Christ!
You should, and it's good that you've linked that in because while we like you, Sean Bell, Computer Game Show is just it's just a banter cast. It's not as good as Kane and Rince, is it?
It's a dying breed, that banter cast. I hear.
It really is. Just lads chatting.
Hey, I'll have less of that.
Lads chatting. Who wants that?
Poor Chris. To be fair to him, he's stuck by his guns. did Chris span? Good stuff. Yeah.
But doesn't matter.
Undertale, good stuff. Go into it, explore, enjoy, try and work out what you're doing, and have a little fun with that soundtrack as well because it's quite sublime, I think. Speaking of quite sublime and soundtracks. Ni no Kuni's got a Ni no Kuni 2.
More like Ni Yes Kuni.
Or like, no, Kuni, no.
Ni yes Kuni, please sir, may I have some more? Yeah, Ni no Kuni 2 Revenant Kingdom coming November from level 5?
Yes.
Yeah, it's level 5, isn't it? And Studio Ghibli, although I don't know if their involvement equates to the same as it did in the first one. It certainly looks the part again, doesn't it?
Did you like the first one?
I played maybe a couple of... So I played the demo and was unsure how I'd get on with the combat because I haven't played many of your old JRPGs. And grinding through that sort of combat doesn't necessarily fill me with anticipation. And I played up to... You get to first sort of town area and start getting side quests left, right and centre. And I kind of got overwhelmed by the number of side quests and didn't go back to it. But loved the idea and loved the little Mr. Droopy that I got a cuddly toy of.
So I really liked... I loved this game. I didn't play a minute of it. I watched Laura play it. We managed to get a review copy. So Laura played it.
Nice looking game, isn't it?
Yeah. So Laura played it, and I was there the whole time, watching and chatting away. What a beautiful game, and it really does ramp up as well. When you can't get into the end, the power levels you get to, and just the design of everything. The world map is stunning. It's a proper old school, but reimagined for the modern day world map where you're running around just a beautiful map, kind of wandering into the towns that are nearby. The charm of it, the style of it. I'm gonna probably out myself here, but I'm not really a Ghibli fan normally. Well, thing is, everyone describes them as the Japanese Disney, and I'm not really a Disney fan either.
Sure.
They're nice films, but they're not really my sort of speed.
That's fair enough.
But visually, it's beautiful, and like Ni no Kuni 2, it seems to be taking the kind of Pokemon mechanic from the main game, which is you collect dudes and make them stronger. It seems to be ditching that in favour of what are they called? Laura, what are the little mini things called?
Pikmin.
Pikmin. Fuck it. All right. You've got clumps of dudes on the floor, small, Pikmin-like creatures, and the way that you now control them is you kind of run to different colours of them, so they stand around in groups of colours. And when you're stood in the red ones, you can get access to all the fire spells, and when you're stood in the blue ones, you get access to all the ice spells. And depending on how many you've got alive, or how many are there at the time, it depends on how strong the magic is, or how much you can cast it. So I saw a boss fight with someone running around, and this monster did a big fire attack. So they ran over to their fire guys and put on the fire shield, and just completely didn't get hurt from it. And it was just really kind of clever watching them kind of run back and forward, actively looking for the clump of the green guys to do the healing, and then running back to the red guys again. It looked brilliant. It looked like a really cool reinvention of the combat system, and it looks so pretty, right? It's so pretty.
Yeah, it does. I can't imagine at this point I'll have cause to go back to the original, but if I get any kind of whispers on the wind that they've done something about removing the kind of grinding that goes with the first one and many JRPGs, not to generalize, many JRPGs I'm sure have avoided that particular, but it's something that people often say about your 80, 100-hour JRPGs.
James, you're wrong. None of them have ever avoided it.
I like to be as charitable and deferent as I can be.
No, you're not on Cane and Rinse now. You can just make wild assumptions about
just because I don't know.
Just make vast
assumptions.
assumptions.
A couple hours of Ni no Kuni is about as much of a JRPG as I've ever played. So, I'll tuck into Ni no Kuni 2 if I find out that it's either 40 hours or 80 hours, but none of it's grindy. Sure, I'll go for that.
Sweet.
I will never ever play Ni no Kuni for reasons being that it's way too similar in premise to probably my favourite book ever, which is Brave Story by Mayuki Miyazabi, Mayuki Miyabi, and I love that book to pieces. I think it's a masterpiece, and I wouldn't want something that's this similar, to kind of intersect with my memories of the book. Um,
yeah.
And like I say, I love the book to pieces. And Mayuki Miyabe also wrote the novel adaptation of Aiko, so which is superb, really, really good book. So that's why, strange reason maybe, but that's why I kind of got no interest in going near this. Main show then.
Here endeth the pre-show. Yeah.
Stuff that didn't matter is now done. We're now on
Bye.
to stuff that really matters. God, this
Right,
is going to be great. Yeah.
So, but
This is the best stuff. This is the creme de la creme of what
Can
Sony
I just
had to
say, before we kick in properly, I'm really glad I stayed up till 3 a.m. for this show.
It genuinely made me so sad that you were going to bed unhappy after this. It really, really bothered me.
It was a combination of unhappy and confused.
Yeah,
Like-
it's just
Like, is there more? Is that it? Why are the lights on?
We've spoken before that they'd probably cut stuff to take on the Xbox One X, like nearer to Christmas, and get bigger sales, and because we know that stuff was cut from this show, which in business terms is great, but I don't know. I just think a lot of people were sort of a bit glum after this.
I do find the notion that Sony, it's been said ever since the PlayStation 4, Xbox One E3 back in 2013, that Sony have like multiple versions that they want to put out, and they choose what they're going to put out based on what Microsoft do. Now, in terms of a competitive business, I get that, but the notion that there are games coming out either this year or next that were kind of on a knife edge of whether they put them in the show and maybe then didn't even make it into the pre-show, that just sounds bizarre to me, because if they're games that are coming out this year, well, a lot of what Sony had to show isn't coming out till next year, so maybe bump some of that, given you've got a show at the end of the year in PlayStation Experience, and give us some stuff that's coming this year. And if it's stuff that's coming next year, then why were you wanting to show it anyway? Because you got loads of that already.
Yeah, I mean, one of the criticisms I think in previous shows has been the fact that they've shown off a game that's been in development for 10 years that's finally coming out. Stuff that's nowhere near being released yet, and you know people have bounced up and down about that, and I can see it because I remember a podcast I think I listened to where they were saying that these shows are essentially putting down sort of trails of breadcrumbs, leading people to knowing that they're purchasing the right console, and that the forward momentum they've got is going to give them sort of lots of goodies in the future, that they're walking in the right direction. Can see that, but this is still gaming Christmas, and I don't think that they honoured it personally.
Yeah. Still, I guess we should find out why we're perhaps not as positive as maybe we expected to be, I guess.
Well, when we get to the end, I've got a delicious sum up from Laura that I'm going to save to the end. It's going to make you feel disgusted about the whole show.
I will say that I've sort of dug up a few extra bits about a few things that maybe didn't come across in the presentation, and they kind of made me go, oh. So
yeah. Cool.
So let's start with the theatre. Whoa!
Chipper, woo!
You stop, boy. You stop.
What, are you actually doing this now then?
Well, let's talk about the theatre. Again, they chose another theatre for their show this year. I think it's a classy move. I like that they pick a theatre over a more showy kind of trade show thing. I like that the different kind of companies have their own looks now. Like, you know, a nice classy theatre, that's the Sony Showtime, Like, if you look at a stage and go, well, that's the Xbox stage, you can tell now. Like, they're all jumping into their own little grooves. I think it works for them. And I really like the intro this time. I thought that was cool as well.
What was the intro?
The twangy Indian music with the waterfall in the background.
Yeah.
Or video of a waterfall. I couldn't quite tell. It was a bit hard on the stream to tell if it was real or fake. I like when they start with music, because I think they should do it every year. It just adds like a little kind of, showtime, yep.
Again, it adds to the atmosphere of being in a theatre and seeing something that's live and happening now. And there's that excitement that you get from seeing a show in a theatre as opposed to going to the cinema. That's not to, denigrate cinema, but you go to a theatre with the expectation of seeing something that you couldn't see on a cinema screen.
Because imagine if they just played a bunch of trailers in a row.
Yeah, imagine if you saw lovely
They pretty
Sean
much
Bladen.
did that anyway.
That's the joke.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck.
And,
So, I agree. I like the theatre aspect. I like that they do stuff for the live audience, like stringing people up from the ceiling and whatnot. But I don't get that in my living room. There was no one hanging from a ceiling twitching, other than myself in my living room when the Sony show was on. And so therefore, again, how is this different to what Nintendo do? It's different for the people there. The journalists get to be all gleeful and happy about the atmosphere and having lights shone in your face if you happen to be sitting behind someone who's filming reaction shots, as the Waypoint people were. But for me, this is literally, watching this was almost no different to watching a Nintendo Direct, except Sony did a live event, but I couldn't tell.
I think that last year
Again,
you've got the full orchestra and like everything built up and built
Love
up
that.
and then everybody went like, oh my god, it's God of War, and it was just like this big sort of rise and push, and everybody was like, yes, I'm in. And whilst the introduction, was all very live and very twangy on this one, maybe I'm the wrong person to ask, but isn't it like a wee bit of an anticlimax that you're leading into Uncharted: The Lost Legacy?
I was just looking at the run, and I wonder if there isn't a certain Capcom game that had Sony got exclusive rights to, at the first of the Capcom games, I just realised there's two of them, that had Sony got exclusive rights to, they might not have put that first, because God of War was this is coming back. This is different. We're doing something different with this. And now I think actually the first three games they have on show demonstrate very well that what they're doing with God of War is perfectly in keeping with what Sony do for third-person action games, and not actually all that interesting and new, but that's just me. But I think had a certain Monhun been a Sony exclusive and they open with that as we've got this back, that would have been a great thing to have an orchestral accompaniment to and a big announcement for. But I think it's telling that the big announcement was, that DLC we're doing, it's now a standalone exclusive that's as long as the first Uncharted game.
I thought it was. I think my experience with this is that it's kind of like
when it
about
announced it at PlayStation
half
Experience.
as long. Yeah, I understood
it was originally going to be a DLC, and by a few months into development, they realised they were dealing with something bigger.
But I think you're right. With the opening, I think opening and their closing as well. It lacked boom this year. Like it lacked a lot of boom. Like you say, last year, kicking off with God of War, God of War's back. What the hell? Goggle-eyed in my sofa watching that. Really happy about that.
It was the pleasure delay though that they did with the build-up and the live orchestra being there and just the level of unknown, but being really taken aback by it. And as I understand, the people that were actually in the audience, that was even more so, and that build, and then you saw God of War. It's the kind of twanginess leading into
there was a showmanship, but also a swagger.
Yeah. But does a DLC, well, a standalone, I guess, but does an expansion pack warrant this much bravado at the start? It looked alright, didn't it? Well. It looked fine, I guess. But Uncharted 4 was... don't get me wrong, I like Uncharted. I like it as a series. I really enjoy playing them. I thought Uncharted 4 was really good. I banged through it in 2 days and had a rollicking old time with it. Do I care about this one? Not really.
Which is such a shame, because this is the first Uncharted without Nathan Drake at the front of it. And it's great that it's a buddy explorer game with two kind of antagonistic female characters as your leads. That's fantastic. And had this been Uncharted 5, the beginning of a new story or something, that's great. But we know it was a DLC to Uncharted 4 that then became a standalone, which does give it, as CJ, you said, that kind of budget feel, which it shouldn't. This should, if they want to do this game justice and make a breakaway from Nathan Drake, make it the big new Uncharted game. that people should be getting excited about.
Yeah.
But
I think the problem with it as well, like with Uncharted 4, not to, spoilers, but Nathan Drake
no spoilers in
Okay.
here. Absolutely no spoilers in the podcast. I hate it when that happens. And people that aren't near their speaker or maybe like listening in another room have to kind of stick their fingers in their ears or sort of put their head down the toilet.
Let me rephrase then. Okay, by the end of Uncharted 4, I was happy that we were done. Had a lovely conclusion. I was happy. We were finished. And then it's like, we're not finished. We've got a bit more. Remember the side story that, but I don't know. Like, I was really, at the end of Uncharted 4, I was very satisfied with it. I was happy. I was like, right, that's good. Put a bow on it. Done. Walk away. That's it. Brilliant. Happy with that. And this just kind of like, ticking the boxes. Like, it looks like it should be good. It looks like it probably will play fine. And it looks like they're doing some new stuff with it. But I don't know. Like, Nathan Drake is Uncharted for me. Like, the side characters are fun too, but running around saying crap, it gets a lot of flack, but
actually,
that's what a real human would probably say when he's being shot at. Like, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. Like, that's what I'd say.
If they want to make a big deal out of this, how about launching it as a new franchise? Call it something else and bracket an Uncharted tail under it if you want to get the brand on there. But how about make it Chloe and Nadine's own story, franchise, whatever, without it being...
Is that what you're calling it?
This is the Nathan Drake wannabes, you know? You're asking the wrong guy to try and explain to you why this is good. I played 3 Uncharted games in The Last of Us, and I'm done with Naughty Dog. Not interested. They've proved time and time again that any complaint that I or anyone else had with their games, they are just unwilling to address as far as I'm concerned. They don't care. So I'm not even going near Uncharted 4 or this or Last of Us Chapter 2, Part 2.
This is kind of cool.
2, whatever it's called.
This is probably where we differ then. I know we've talked about it before, but like, for me, Uncharted has always been like a comfy sweater. Like, it plays like I want it to play. Like, it plays like I'd want to play. It's going to sound stupid, like a film. Like, it plays like an Indiana Jones film, and I really enjoy that. You know, that is for me. Like that's my thing. And I totally get why people don't like them. You know, all the climbing and that ledge is going to break in it. Oh, the ledge did break. Oh, it did. Yeah. It did break. Oh no. Watch out for that building. It might collapse in a minute. Oh, there it goes. Yep, the building fell down. Yep, well done. Oh, look at that pole. Are you going to climb? Oh, he's definitely going to climb the pole. Oh, good on Nathan Drake. It's very by the numbers, but that's fine for me. That's fine. But I totally get why people.
No, I absolutely understand why people like it. It's just for me, I get frustrated with the gameplay bit, and the story bit is not enough to keep me wanting to play through the gameplay parts. So why would I do it? By the end of Uncharted 2, I was beyond angry with myself for playing it, and still ended up playing Uncharted 3 just because I thought, oh, they're saying they're addressing the shooting. They didn't. Come on.
They did eventually with DLC, but that's another argument, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
But look at that internet. Look at us. We have very different opinions on that game. We had a nice, pleasant discussion and don't hate each other.
Absolutely.
I shake your hand via the internet, sir.
Absolutely, and I am happy that this is out there. As I say, I wish there was maybe. I felt that they were grandstanding it a bit more, making a big deal a bit more, but it does feel like that we put this at the front of our show, but yeah, it's that DLC that we made it, and that's really unfortunate because Nadine, I don't know, didn't play Uncharted 4, but Chloe, interesting character, strong character to build an extra story around.
Yeah,
great.
She's cool. No, to be fair, Nadine is cool. I think there'll be some good play.
Yeah,
I think they'll bounce off each other well. She's good. Yeah.
CJ,
Right.
Big Uncharted fan, looking forward to this?
No.
No, Cooney.
Just baffled that this starts off an E3 show. Baffled. Because it will probably play well to the people that want that sort of comfy sweater sofa. And apparently it does look better than Uncharted 4 did. The effort's there, absolutely, just not something I'd ever want to play.
Well, you know when you're making a mixtape and you start off strong and then you take it up a notch just so that everyone knows you haven't just blown your load at the first track. Horizon Zero Dawn: The Frozen Wilds.
Well, just to nip back to Uncharted again. I mean, I played the first one and really enjoyed it at the time. Like, it was my first game on PS3, I think, and then everybody was going, "Oh, the second one's much better. The second one's amazing." And I played a bit of the second one and hated it.
Yeah, pretty much my experience, except
really
I forced myself to drive on through the whole game and just got more and more frustrated with it. Yeah.
Which is, an anomaly in it itself.
Which
I tend to like.
You are an anomaly.
I tend to like games in series that people don't generally like, and so I'm weird.
Yeah. No, Uncharted, the first one, the Drake's Fortune or whatever it's called, is my favourite one of them largely because I had zero expectations for it. I think I accepted the weird DualShock balance log thing, daft stuff.
First platinum trophy I ever got off that game. It was like one of the very first ones to get trophies. I remember sitting there and doing that and crushing, and it was absolute bullshit, but it was fun.
But yeah, not for me, but I understand that it's a big deal and other people like it. So maybe for others, this was a great opening to the show and good on them.
So you were saying about Horizon Zero Dawn, the Frozen Wilds.
Yeah, you know when you're making a podcast and you aim for when you think a segue is going to work, and then it doesn't.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's fine. It's my fault. Yeah, Horizon Zero Dawn, Frozen Wilds. Great. I gather there was kind of a wintry area in the first game, but this is going to centre around one of the tribes that there was a little bit of side story directed towards, but not much, and it's going to flesh out them. So,
Have you played Horizon?
Every description anyone gave me of comparisons to other games, what they enjoyed about it, I watched the opening kind of intro and tutorial just to see if I was wildly off base by thinking this wasn't for me, and I would have thrown a controller through the screen based on what I saw of the tutorial, so no.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Paddy, you've been lent it, haven't you?
Not quite. It's not here yet, but it's on its way. I'm being lent it by our good friend Ellie. It's wonderful.
It's dropped down to quite a reasonable price, and it's had a big sales boost again as well, and it's been bundled with quite a few very timely PlayStation bundles. So
and did very well in the first place. So a second game,
it's done amazing well, and
is just icing on the cake, I'm sure. Yeah.
Worth noting, one of gaming's only prominent gingers.
Also, worth noting that this is a problem that Microsoft having themselves, that Sony have launched a brand new IP and it's ballparked it like reviews wise and sales wise, and that's something that Microsoft really need to get near.
Well, they've got Car, haven't they?
But the fact that Guerrilla have sort of stepped up beyond a ropey first-person shooter to this, I think, is incredible. The fact that they've looked at the PlayStation Pro and they've actually done the things that they've done on the Pro to step it up, and it already looks beautiful anyway. There's just quality across the board with this, and I am really looking forward to playing it. I must admit. But, every time I look at my PlayStation 4 at the minute, I just see Jim Ryan.
Out by the end of the year as well. So
wow,
August.
Good great guns, in fact. Just something that, as I say, what I saw of it, really excited at the first reveal and got less and less excited as I saw more, and the more I heard, it wasn't going to do it for me.
How much patience you've got for like open world stuff, haven't you? Like in an era where Ubisoft have worn me out of open world games.
A lot of it is the Ubisoft factor and climbing up. Okay, now a movable tower, but still climbing up a tower to unlock icons to tick off. Yeah, I can't do it.
Buy X.
And
that's I know what you mean. I'm missing all the obvious jokes today.
I happily played Zelda Breath of the Wild and absolutely loved every second. And there are things about that I think make it distinct from the open world explore and tick off the stuff. But it's not like the charms of open world adventuring are completely lost on me. It's just I'm very wary of, especially actually when it comes to Sony third-person action games, I'm very wary of getting into them because it does seem like there is a model that they are following now as well. just with the feel that comes off them from the way they're presented, and a lot of it is from that kind of cinematic aspect and wanting to have those cinematic way of presenting the story and everything, and it lifts me out of the game completely, unfortunately, which is really sad, because these are some of the best games released ever, basically, and I'm just having to back away from them slowly, saying I can't do this. You know?
we all have our things we
yeah,
hit.
absolutely.
You know, like, you know, for me it's GTA. Everyone loves it, and I cannot get on with it one bit.
No,
you know, we all have our, like, the big title you just can't deal with. Like, that's not for me, and that happens. You know, and I can understand. You know, I completely get what you're saying about that sort of burnout of that particular style of game. Like, for me, it is the Ubisoft open world with some towers and a million things to do. Like, that's my particular turn off at the minute, games wise. But yeah, no, I can see what you mean. Like, but I like, see, for me, I like kind of sort of set piece quiet bit. I tend to enjoy that flow quite well. You know, I get into that really well, and I quite like sitting down and just having a week and just banging through a game, you know, like, you know, 2 or 3 days, and just kind of really just banging through it and enjoying it for what it is. Because, like, to go back to Zelda, even, you know, like, a lot of people have described that as, like, the running around in the open world is the fun bit.
Yeah,
like,
the exploration is, definitely. Yeah.
But for me, that is a small, you know, like, oh, okay, fine. Because I quite like my set pieces. I like jumping at the back of a giant monster and, you know, climbing over it and having the music swell up and, oh god, now we're going underwater, whooey! Like, I like my game to be mostly that. But again, it depends on the game, you know. I don't want to spend 3 hours mucking around with the moblins to make them punch each other. Like, that's fine. But that's what people on the internet are for, like, to watch them.
And let's face it, if someone says a game's a bit like Souls, I'll run at it like nobody's business. Won't necessarily like it, but I'll give it a try based on that comparison alone. And that is, as many people have kind of described, a genre now.
Would you say that you would have Lords of the Fallen for it again?
Lords of the Fallen. Oh, that was a shame, wasn't it?
That was such a shame.
I really didn't like that game. I struggled through about 2/3 of it and just stopped. And I was like, I don't care what happens next. I didn't get on with it. And the Surge seems like it's garnered more fans than Lords of the Fallen, perhaps, but
not hard though.
Yeah.
Why are we talking about that, Guff? What do you think of Days Gone?
I'll go
Looks
first.
like
then.
a Sony third-person action game.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
And thus the divide. James on one page, Patrick on another. The book is life.
It's got a style, and you know, definitely I can see again why a lot of people are looking forward to this. Obviously it was first announced. Was it last E3 or was it a PlayStation Experience?
I'm pretty sure it was last.
It was at E3. Yeah,
it was E3, wasn't it? Yeah.
They did 2 announcements in the same show, didn't they? They had it.
Oh, they showed the same thing. Yeah, they did. You're right. They showed the same thing all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, bikers and zombies.
Yeah, I thought I was sick of zombies, but I'm well into this. Like, I really like the. I mean, I think the last trailer we saw was probably like a more punchy one, like the one from last year, where the flood of zombies, like a gushing river, chasing at you, like, was just spectacular. Like, that's what I look for when I say I want, you know, that big set piece moment. Like, here's a million zombies go. Like, oh geez. I think this was probably a more sedate thing to show, but I think it showed off more of the actual moment to moment. It's not always going to be, you know, like there's going to be some driving around and doing some stuff. I really liked the choke trap at the start, because he was distracted by the dog thing, ended up getting choked off his bike. I thought that was brilliant. I laughed out loud at that. I genuinely really enjoyed that. Sneaking past the clump of them, just sitting there, just munching on meat, and then using the zombies as a weapon later on. Like, I really enjoyed that. Like, they're not just going to be a problem to deal with. They can be used as a tool because they're thick and you can trick them. And all that zombie stuff, you know, again, I thought I was done with zombies, but I'm into it. I think graphically it's not all that. Looks a bit PS3 in places, which isn't a problem.
I'd bet on it looking maybe not quite Uncharted levels.
Yeah,
But
I hear it's a
bet
lot
on-
prettier than you think, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think whether it's a some coats of polish on at the end or whatever, I think that'll end up looking every bit the Sony PlayStation first party exclusive.
Yeah, it could be the stream I was watching, but it looked fine. It didn't look spectacular. It looked fine.
So I did have one big question. So he comes off his bike and has the fight with the two guys, which obviously we don't know how that plays, whether it's QTE, whatever. But then your man on the bike snuck down the hill, and he saw from a distance a swarm of zombies that went after the camp of people that he just passed through. And then he passed very close to another one, didn't he? Now, it doesn't bother me in a stealth game if it's an instant fail, but I presume at that point you don't have the option to take on the swarm of zombies and actually win, based on what we saw last year and how overwhelming it is to try and get away from or defeat a swarm of zombies, being that once a few of them know you're there, they all know you're there and they're coming for you.
There are a lot of different ways that this can play out.
Okay.
Because this was one of the games where I heard more stuff about it and
Cool.
I became more interested.
Because that's what I was worried about, whether actually if the zombie hears you going down there, because there's that whole tension of got to sneak past, make sure they don't hear me, and then use them to take out a group of human enemies.
I think, like I say, there's
If there's other ways, then maybe that suggests it's not instant fail stealth, and actually there's only one outcome here. So
no, there's definitely not one outcome and stuff. I mean, the bit that Pad was saying that he was impressed with the the Uber wave of zombies has been in the breakdown that I heard of the game being played after E3, is that's probably more like late game when you're getting that level of swarm. They'll build it up and build it up, but they were saying that that the weather and the time of day can really affect things. Like you might go back to an area where you can see loads of stuff in the daylight, and whilst you'd imagine that darkness adds an extra tension, when there's snow on the ground, it adds an extra tension because you can be heard. That the freakers have needs, so they have to drink and they have to eat. So there'll be points where they're low on energy, or there'll be points where they can't get to what they need, and they either become more ferocious or become more tired. There was one bit where they said there was a reactive thing where there was a guy who was taunting a freaker in a cage, and I think he was somebody that you maybe had to get, or and you could take him out with say the gun and obviously risk drawing them on, but in this playthrough one of the other people shot the lock on the cage and the freaker came out and devoured the man.
Oh, I saw that. I love that.
Yeah, so there's a lot there. They said that Deacon, the lead character, the developers said he isn't likable, and he's a bit of a jerk, which presumably is him dealing with the disappearance or the death of his wife, I think.
Sure.
One of my notes I've written down is that he seems like a bit of a dick.
Well, they were saying as well that that the motorbike can run out of gas, so you have to try to get petrol for the bike. Yeah. And one of the questions raised there was, well, is there going to be fast travel, because it's going to nullify the effectiveness of having the bike and the mechanic of gas if you can just fast travel back to the camp that you've been at, and it's more interesting if you can't, if you have to deal with things in the moment. But all of those make me more interested in a game which on face value washed over me, and
like a swarm of zombies.
Yes, indeed. But it's just those little quirks that they haven't ever brought across in the trailers that have played on both of the E3s, and sometimes there's a lot to be said for somebody talking through a game and sort of telling you the nuances and niches, and because not everybody's gonna read up or listen to discussions afterwards. I mean, again, I have to tip my hat to the Easy Allies lads who not only did their E3 stuff, but then went out, played all the games, came back and talked about them as well. So
yeah. Well, there's still no release date. Not even a 2018 popped up after it, I don't think, because I marked it down as TBA. So I hope that means we get something more in depth on exactly how this plays at, say, PlayStation Experience.
Yeah, they don't want
example.
to.
It's the
They
thing,
don't want to
Laura
shoot
says
the
the
wob
thing.
too soon on that front, because you want to drip feed stuff, and they're not talking about story at this point yet. So I'd imagine marketing-wise, that's further
They
down
just
the
showed
line.
a couple of set pieces, really, didn't
yeah.
they? So.
It's something Laura said, when we see these sort of trailers where you sort of see gameplay, like, it's all very well seeing the gameplay, but show me the HUD. Like, show me the controls, show me what's happening. Like, is there a map?
It gives you much more of a clue of actually how they're doing what they're doing. And yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Show me the HUD.
So then the skies opened and a ray of sunshine beamed in, not just onto the Sony conference, not just onto America, but the whole world, the entire universe. The sun was aglow and things just felt better.
It's Sean Layden, everybody.
Don't you
To be
dare
fair, he
steal
did
my
appear
stuff,
at this point. Don't even test me on that.
Yeah, and he said it was something that was close to his heart as well, having dealt with previous stuff back when it was on PlayStation. And none of us at this point knew that it wasn't a PlayStation exclusive, because it had been rumoured as being, for a little while before the show, Monster Hunter World. Thank you. It looks so good. And I have to take back a little conversation that I had with Pad when I was saying, like, I didn't think that showed off Monster Hunter particularly well at all, and Pad was like, actually, that kind of got me interested. That did it for me. And when I went back,
you're more interested in Cross or whatever it is.
No, I wouldn't say that.
You definitely did.
But no.
With your words, you definitely did.
No. I wouldn't say that at all. I just think that Monster Hunter traditionally has a problem explaining itself, and I didn't think when I initially watched that trailer that it did a good job of that with this, but going back and rewatching it, I think it did.
So I've only ever played 3 Ultimate, it must have been, I think. It might have been 4 Ultimate. 3DS one. Was 3 Ultimate on 3DS? No, it wasn't, was it? It was only 4
Yes, it was on 3DS, because that was the one that I put 300 hours into on Wii U.
But then there was Generations. It was probably 4 Ultimate, and I recognised some of the areas from this from the opening areas of 4 Ultimate. The difference being, obviously, that in 4 Ultimate, one of the things that bothered me and meant that I only put in about 6 hours into it was just how fragmented and small those individual areas were for what seemed to me like it was supposed to be, quote unquote, an open map to explore. That's a weird thing to put me off a game that clearly I know transcends a lot of that stuff, but I recognise a lot of Monster Hunter in this, which for someone who has played literally 6 hours of Monster Hunter is pretty impressive, I thought, for them to get across enough of what's going on to someone who clearly is far from anything close to an expert or a fan. So
yeah, same here, exactly same here. I did the same thing. I got one of the PSP ones and played about 4 or 5 hours. I was like, this isn't really for me, but this was very obviously Monster Hunter. Even a slight hint of the "oh god, run away." I thought that was kind of fun. I saw a little bit of that.
I was worried that the super 1920s black and white Laurel and Hardy Harold Lloyd run was gone, but thankfully it is still there.
Glorious, absolutely glorious.
Because I like I say, I put 300 and odd hours into Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate on the Wii U. That was the first time a Monster Hunter had clicked with me. Took a while to do it, but got there, and much of that was down to going online and just being able to fight with other people and get equipment that I wouldn't normally have gotten, and then I had momentum there, and most of that online stuff was a stressful Christmas at work where I could just come home and just sit down and then relax into hitting something. I played Monster Hunter 4 on 3DS after that. and didn't like going from the big telly to a handheld. Thought it was clunky. I didn't like looking down at sort of my knees when I'm playing, as opposed to like looking on the, such a spectacular widescreen experiences, like these massive dinosaurs and stuff. Suddenly having that in a tiny way in front of me wasn't my bag. Plus, I didn't like the verticality in 4. I really didn't. It just seemed like a lot of faff, so I barely played 4. But as I understand it with this one, they've kind of pulled it apart. They've looked at what works and what doesn't, how they can explain themselves better, how they can streamline things. And everything that I saw on the live stream today, which was what the journos played after the conferences, was ballpark, absolute ballpark. They've done some amazing stuff, and I think that even the people that were skeptical on social media were just grinning like twats, sort of, after that stream today.
I mean, we've all been there before when a game that we love says, "Oh, we're gonna streamline it, we're gonna make it more accessible," and panic sets in a little bit, doesn't it? Where you wonder how much of what you love about it is going to be sacrificed in the name of appealing to either more casual fans or more casual players, or say in this case, I heard more than one person say this is them making a bid for the Western market. They've realised that 3 and 4 and Generations did well without them necessarily going hard after it, and now's the time to actually go for a worldwide audience.
The thing is, whilst the design of Monster Hunter has been successful, and the different iterations of that have all built on the same handheld design going back to the PSP, and this is the point where they've kind of really opened it up and not just gone for graphical fidelity, but the tweaks that they put in, from what I've heard, are just magnificent. And I remember listening to an 8-4 Play podcast where they said Tokyo Game Show that, and it was the only time I heard this reported, they said how bonkers the Japanese were going over Horizon Zero Dawn. And whilst when you go like, oh yeah, I can see that because there's the Monster Hunter aspect of it and stuff, but I'm wondering, part of me is wondering if sort of Capcom haven't looked at that as early as it may have been in development, sort of when it was first announced, and just gone, we might risk something doing Monster Hunter better than us and becoming kind of obsolete. So whatever's led them into this, I don't know. But
an even aspect of The Witcher 3 combat, people were pointing at maybe this is a little Monster Hunter-ish. I know it didn't end up being quite that, and Witcher 3 was never really successful based on its combat necessarily, although obviously some people enjoyed it more or less. But yeah, I think there's been motions in that direction in Western games for a while now, certainly for a couple of years. And yeah, if they think they can retool and make something for, I mean, Xbox One, PS4 and PC as well. Because my first thought was, oh, Sony got it back, but no.
Sony, I think it's better. I think
it's here, but it's going to be everywhere. I mean, who knows if it will see a Switch version? Possibly, if they're designing it for PS4, Xbox One, and PC, it may not pair back to the Switch all that well. But
they've also said that they're opening up the servers beyond just the regional, so we'll be able to play with folks in Japan, and this is why. I mean, all of the people I know will be playing it on PS4, and with the
that'll be the most popular place.
Those huge sort of servers, I'd imagine that's going to be the version to go for. But yeah, it looked. I was initially sort of quite bemused by the kind of sparkles leading you onwards, and hearing that. I heard that in early stuff that was shown, there was someone talking to you and telling you what to do, and what giving you an idea of the world over the radio, which again is like Some people had complained, oh man, am I going to have somebody telling me what to do all the time? I get the feeling that is a proper introduction that the game's been missing doing for a while. But all of the stuff that I heard from the hands-on, which was backed up by the Japanese live stream today, just sounded fantastic. Just like somebody has really, really sat down and gone, what does Monster Hunter do? How can we do that better? How can we add more to it? And it's just really,
and
really
taking
fantastic.
a look at complaints people have had, because there have been complaints. Obviously, as it gained popularity, more people who weren't as apt to wrestle with Japanese translations and working out how to play the game by going onto YouTube and talking to people rather than in-game tutorials. So one thing I did wonder, because, I mean, let's face it, we're all fans of niche genre title that was a bit obscure and took a bit of nous to get invested into and enjoy. Is there any aspect of they're going to put proper weapon tutorials in the game, explain mechanics, and actually get people into the game? Is there any aspect of, well, I had to learn how to do this, why don't other people have to learn how to do this? You know,
none of that's come out yet. And in previous regards to Monster Hunter 3 Ultimates Online, the lovely thing about the online section of that was you've got people who were clearly very, very experienced with Monster Hunter, who were delighting in kind of telling people
showing people the rules.
You know, and kind of giving them advice and taking questions, and it was a really warm environment to be in, and that wasn't just kind of regular folks. They were like, you know, they're still the same when they were talking with like kids and all that sort of stuff. It was great. So, but they haven't announced the tutorials sort of yet with regards, because there is a lot to those weapons, and I've only really played about with like a couple of them in my time on 3 Ultimate. But the details that I got from the Game Critic walkthrough, again, thank you to Easy Allies for this, was those little things that are sparkling through and leading you on are called scout flies. And I believe this is something that you can build up, that you can level up, and the Anjanath, which is that kind of T-Rex type thing with the super nose that kind of it does the super smell thing. That's got an energy mucus that sort of comes out of his nose, and you can scrape that off the trees and level up the scout flies. There's then a new creature called the Great Jaguarus, which walks up to like a couple of sort of quite docile Aptonoths, devours one whole, and there's then got like this massive distended belly sort of afterwards, and it goes back and takes it to its young, vomits it up for them to feed on, which is like, oh my god. Then you've got sort of the fight with the Great Jaguarus, and the babies all run into the trees and just watch. So they clearly know that they're outmatched and stuff. I was like, okay, that sounds pretty cool. There's no stopping to pick up items or to drink or anything like that. It just happens now. And apparently one guy who was a Monster Hunter expert was playing it. He was like, oh my god, I just picked it up. I didn't stop when I just picked it up. There's a toggle on the numbers being on your weapons. You don't see a health bar for the monster, but if you want to kind of see how certain weapons do against like certain monsters, you can do. Also, if you go into combat now and you run into something that you're completely unprepared for, you can now fast travel straight back to base, change up your stuff, and come straight back, which is kind of neat. There's destructible environment, open sort of platforms and obstacles that you can use the sort of grappling hook on at that point. There was one bit where I think it was the Anjanath sort of knocked over a tree, and there were like loads of vines near to the tree, and when you led sort of the creature near to it, it got tied up in the vines, and you could sort of twat it from there. Let me see. When the Anjanath, when it's led on, and you see this towards the end of the trailer on the Sony stage, the Rathalos comes up basically because it's arrived in its nest, and you see the fire breathing and stuff, and that's where kind of the Sony trailer ends. In the actuality, the Rathalos arrives, picks the creature up in its claws, just fly and drops it off a cliff. And it's like, oh my god! And I saw this; it was really neat. So you'd also got then the battle with the Rathalos, and I think that the guy put a bomb near this wall, and basically you realised that it was a dam, and it blew apart sort of the wall, and all the water came rushing down and stuff, and sort of flushed the creature off the side of the cliff, which was pretty neat. You can, as per the recent games, you can mount the creature, and as I understand it, there's kind of a bit where you can mash a button, and sort of a temper meter on the creature sort of goes up to red, and then when it tries to throw you off, you have to press like a knuckle button to kind of grip on. They've adapted that this time by doing the Dragon's Dogma technique, whereby you can move around the creature. So if it's trying to throw you in a certain direction, you can move to the other side of the creature, and sort of do that there, which sounds pretty ace. I think the fast travel and stuff is done with those pterodactyl creatures that you saw sort of bringing everybody in at the start, and I think you can jump to certain points in the map and do the same sort of thing again. You can call in other people, and it's drop in, drop out, sort of live in the world rather than it being sort of a separate sort of world for the online hunts and stuff. It just looks fantastic. They've put so much into this.
Yeah. Good.
How does that sound? I think I'm
sounds...
still adding.
I'm sorry, I was asleep. Fine. I'm really happy that you're excited. I'm really, really happy that you're excited. But Monster Hunter, I've really tried to like.
But this is the one. This is the one.
This is the Xbox One.
Well, ironically, this is one I'll probably be playing on PS4.
It's all like, it looked cool. Don't get me wrong, it looks cool. And I saw a few gifs of the thing eating the other thing earlier, and it looked disgusting and brilliant.
Fantastic.
But
I like that.
I know the problem is
it's awesome.
The problem is that it looks great, but at its core, it is still Monster Hunter, and I still just don't find that loop that interesting. It's not for me.
Fair enough.
I don't enjoy the loop, and the running around. The fights always seem to take a bit too long. Like it's been 20 minutes. It's not fallen over yet. Got to go for a piss now.
Yeah, but I mean they are long. I mean, I'm not normally a boss battle guy, but those fights are well earned, and you're taking time out to notice how the creature's moving, when it's breathing, when it runs away to try and sleep and get its energy back. In this one, they seem to be doing a thing whereby, because the environments are destructible and there's so many different places that you could potentially lead a creature in, if you know that environment where the creature will struggle, or you can take advantage of it. Just again seems like a step up.
Like I say, it seems cool. Like, it looks like a really good version of Monster Hunter, but it's still not for me. Thanks, and that's fine.
James,
certainly interested. As I say, I didn't find it terribly enjoyable on the 3DS, and I think the platform was a big part of that, because of the smaller environments and the controls and the way it looked. It just didn't inspire me to stick with it. And this trailer cleared up pretty much all of those worries. So certainly interested to hear more about it and see more of it, and tentatively interested, I think, which is everything that I'm hoping Capcom wanted to hear, is that people who'd kind of been on the fence previously are going to be tipped over onto their side of it. So yeah.
There was another little bit that I saw on the live stream today that made me laugh with the kind of T-Rex type creature, where the guy was trying to sneak past it wearing that sort of leaf cloak, and he was throwing down like dung bombs in the distance. So the creature, obviously with a powerful sense of smell, was kind of turning away and like smelling the stuff. And then he threw one directly on its nose, so he didn't know where he was. And then he got past it, and he threw this kind of sparkly potion on it, which obviously like cleared away the dung stuff. The creature just roared at him, and he was obviously got to the point where he was ahead of the creature, and he could then lead it onwards. And I was like, oh, that's so good. It's so cool. But as someone that thoroughly enjoyed a previous version on the big telly, it's great to have it back on the big telly. It's great to have it seemingly explaining itself better, getting rid of some of the niggles, adding in just so much more spectacle, and bringing it to a massive audience. This is just everything that I wanted from that game.
Yeah. And I don't think you're alone in that. I know a lot of other people who kind of, not put up with it, enjoyed it on 3DS, but there were lots of rumbles of, it'd be great to have this on a full system though, wouldn't it? Great to see what this looked like on a big TV. So. And
Sean Bell did say that when I mentioned it, it'd be nice for it to go multi-format, and I'd like it on the big telly again. He was like, I think people forget just how popular it is in Japan on the trains and on the go and that kind of stuff, which is fair enough. But this
absolutely,
just is everything that I want.
And that's why Double Cross is being released in Japan, and we didn't get an announcement of it coming to Switch elsewhere. Maybe for this reason. Maybe they are kind of hedging their bets that a portable version elsewhere in the world doesn't work for the reasons it does in Japan. And who knows, maybe we'll see a Switch version of whatever Monster Hunter games they keep going in a portable sense, but nice to have one that's there for those who prefer their multiplayer gaming more couch and console based.
It was mentioned in that regard that Capcom say they've got no plans to bring it to the West, but it's Nintendo that have published the previous ones over here anyway, so that might not...
Depends how much Nintendo want to kind of twist their arm.
So you've got more traditional versus on the handheld versus the new Swisher reinvention on the big telly, so it's it'd be interesting to see. It could be an interesting year for Monster Hunter, especially with its own perception in the West. So Shadow of the Colossus, the remake by Blue Point Games.
This is weird, wasn't it?
It's very weird.
HDD.
Weird.
Like they already did a HD version, and then they're doing a full remake after the.
Blue Point themselves put out Echo and Shadow of the Colossus, which is I think a fantastic HD collection.
Oh, brilliant! Absolutely agree. Yeah, they're top tier.
Yeah, but that's how I played both of them first time around. So I'm not saying that from point of view of comparison. I'm saying it from point of view of someone who came to the games. And yes, obviously they are PS2 games that were then made to look a bit more spiffy and ported over. But I mean, those are both available to play on PS4 as well. That happened at PS4 launch, as far as I remember. They were made.
Was that PlayStation Now?
No, they went onto PlayStation Plus, didn't they? But I don't think they went onto PlayStation 4. They might be on now.
I don't think they're on 4. No,
No.
I'd be surprised. They came out on PlayStation 3, and they definitely came out on Plus because that's how I got them.
Yeah, they came on digitally because I had the disc, but then got them on PlayStation Plus as well. I thought it was playable right around the time that Flower and Flow and whatnot were being ported. I thought it was the digital versions, but maybe I'm completely wrong.
I think you're wrong on that. I don't think they were. Maybe they'd have like, oh, by the way, these are on PlayStation now. Yeah, cool. No one cares. Bluepoint are generally really good at the whole HD port thing. You know,
they are.
Metal Gear Solid ones. I've just played through the Vita versions of those, and they're fucking brilliant. They're really, really, really good. Well put together. I hear good things about the Uncharted collection. What else did they do? Did they do God of War?
They did God of War.
The Metal Gear Solid collection was a pretty big one, because especially compared to the other stuff that was going on at Konami, with people saying like, oh, we haven't got the original code for Silent Hill, so we just had to do what we could, and like Bluepoint who must have been on the same speed dial, were just like, yeah, we just got a retail version and just put it in, and then reversioned it.
And amongst some others, they did do the PlayStation 4 and Vita ports of Flower. They did the Xbox 360 port of Titanfall, which is oft listed as a cracking version of a game that people thought would be a dog's dinner on Xbox 360, and wasn't. They remastered Gravity Rush for PlayStation 4, which I didn't play because I'd already played it on Vita, but lots of positive words about that. The only thing I can think that they made... actually, no, this was a port as well. It was PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. They did the Vita version. So that wasn't even their game either. So
did they do the Silent Hill ones?
No, they didn't. They gave that to some sort of mobile company to do the Silent Hill stuff. That's what I'm saying. Like, the Silent Hill folks were all like, oh, we haven't got the original code. Whereas Bluepoint, when they were doing the Metal Gear Solid stuff, were just like, no, nobody's got the original code. We just got a retail disc and put it in and reversioned it. But they must have been literally a button away from each other. So if anybody at Konami could have gone, do you think you could call this other lot? Because I think they've just written on a sign in Comic Sans.
So I saw a lot of bad reaction to this, like the Shadow Class. We haven't even talked about the actual game yet. You know, like it's a full HD. Remastered, not reimagining, but like with new graphics, you know,
proper remake as opposed to just an HD remake.
Yeah, I saw a lot of pushback to this online. I didn't see an awful lot of people being excited. A lot of people I just saw a lot of like why comments.
What are people cracking on about with the animations? Because whilst I've not played the original game, I looked at the trailer afterwards and just went, looks lovely.
Well, here's the thing about animations. For me, as someone who played it on PS2 and on the PS3, the animations for the main character, Wanda particularly, are very flaily. Like, he's got a kind of scamper, and it's part of the charm, I think. It's part of him. He kind of flaps his legs around like no one's business and kind of runs a bit like a cartoon character sometimes. Like, he's arms flailing and legs flapping.
Yeah, arms getting fully involved in the running motion,
Yeah, you're all over the place.
There's an unsteadiness to it. Like he's always one leaf on the ground away from kind of tripping over.
Oh, absolutely, and especially when he's running across the Colossuses themselves, and his kind of feet are slipping a bit, and he's kind of hobbling around. Like, it looked very flaily, but kind of very physicsy. Whereas this seemed a bit smoother from what I could see. But I don't think that's a problem. I don't see why, because we've got the chance now to really remake it from scratch. Why do the animators have to look like he's,
exactly the same,
a flailing stop motion character?
So, my feelings are kind of mixed. My first thought was, it's Shadow of the Colossus. Is this going to be? Oh no, it's Shadow of the Colossus. Because immediately my first thoughts were, it's Shadow of the Colossus, but it looks much better. Is it going to be a sequel? No, I recognise these colossi. They are exactly the same ones. This must be, a HDD, as you say, CJ. And my reaction was, wow, this does look good. I mean, the PS3 versions looked nice because the art style is great, and not nice in a dismissive way. Nice, it looked like like the beautiful games that they are.
Good art direction,
albeit PS2 tech, but really beautiful design. And this struck me as equally beautiful. In terms of, so I obviously can't speak on his behalf, but Joshua Garrity of Cane and Rinse, off Cane and Rinse, and guest previously on Humanity shows.
A very nice man.
A lovely man, lovely man.
He gives a good hug. I met him last year. He gives a great hug.
Oh, it's the best hug. You get right in there for those hugs with Josh.
Oh, I want a hug from Josh. I hope I've earned it.
It's like a cushion of a hug. It's a lovely cushion.
There is one waiting for you. I guarantee it. There's a hug with your name on it.
Sure.
He is probably the biggest fan of Shadow of the Colossus that I know. Not to diminish anyone else, or you, Paddy, but he is a man who will wax lyrical for years about Shadow of the Colossus, quite happily, and not in any kind of in a very genuine and heartfelt way, as you guys often do about games that you talk about, in exactly that sort of spirit, with tears in his eyes and nothing but love in his heart. And I could listen to him talk about it for ages. And his point was that, the running animation looked too smooth, and that kind of flailing unsteadiness was, whether intentional or not, became part of Wander's character.
Yeah, I can see that.
And also the animations of the Colossi, in his eyes, lacked weight. Now, he didn't need to put them side by side and do a comparison. He watched this, and that was his first reaction. Again, I'm not putting words in his mouth. I'm recounting what I saw him say, hopefully in a way that he feels I'm not misrepresenting. He felt there was a lacking weight to the way the Colossi move, and the way the animations were in the original game and in the HD remaster, that weight was apparent just from watching them move, because obviously they're buildings essentially creaking into action. The scene
castles with faces
in The Hobbit where the hills stand up and start battering one another. It's that, there should be that weight to them, and he felt it was lacking. I didn't notice it because I've played through the game once. I'm obviously familiar with it, but not familiar enough to notice the animations and the difference that made. Whether it would bother me if I paid more attention to it as much as it did Josh and other people, because he wasn't the only person saying this, I don't know, but it's clearly for people who count themselves amongst people like Paddy, the people who love this game beyond words. There's enough of them who were worried about the way this looked, and I think part of that worry comes from a reaction that a lot of people had, which was why we had a remake of this game. It feels like a couple of short years ago. It wasn't. It was back in like 2010-11, I think.
It was a while ago, yeah.
Sometime around then. It was a reasonable long time ago. I think the game could stand to be put onto PS4, but then the question arises of, well, I sat here and said, I think it's already on PS4, and it's not. That's the situation I felt like I was in, was, haven't we already done this? Isn't this already a thing? And then to see changes as well on top of that, that must be kind of weird for some people to cope with.
To be fair, this is like me with the original Metal Gear Solid 1. The GameCube version of that is the forever black spot in my Metal Gear history, because I played that and it was just immensely furious the entire time I was playing it.
Yeah.
Because they changed it, and while some of the changes are ostensibly for the better, the first person aiming, like, it meant that it then lost its charm. The overblown cutscenes, how everything had to be a goddamn John Woo film in that remake, whereas in the original it was a bit more understated. It hurt me to play that. Like, it actually made me angry. And Laura's still disappointed that I didn't get on with it, because she spent a lot of money finding that game for me.
Boo on you!
Thank you, Laura. Boo on me. And yeah, once again, colour commentary. But yeah, I can see why people would be worried for this, because that's the reaction I had to one of my favourite games of all time being remade and coming out a little bit wank.
Not the game you remembered it to be.
No, exactly.
'Cause that's the trick with cover versions of songs we love and remakes of films or games, is they don't have to be shot-for-shot remake, but hopefully they should evoke the same feelings. And for a lot of people, it may be something as subtle as the way an animation changes that actually changes the way they feel about a character or a creature or a game.
Yeah.
I have faith because Bluepoint have done so right by the games that they have remastered previously that I can't imagine they don't want to do right by this again. This is no small thing they're being handed to do. And I do have faith that they're up to the task, but hopefully it's not too late to take on board some of what has been said and look into it and see if they can't work out why the difference is causing this sort of consternation. Early 2018 release, so if it's something that an animation of the main character seems like something big, but it may, I don't know enough about it to know how easily or otherwise that could be changed. I don't know, but we'll see, I guess.
Yeah. CJ, you? Much Shadow of the Colossus attachment?
No, absolutely none whatsoever, beyond the author of my favourite book having written the Ico novel.
Sure.
Haven't played it.
Worth noting as well, at this point in Shadow, we're at Shadow of the Colossus, let's just bring this up. Isn't it weird to not be talking about The Last Guardian this year?
Yeah, I miss it.
It is.
What we're supposed to do now, it's come out, and Final Fantasy 15 have all come out now. What the fuck are we supposed to talk about?
Resident Evil 2 remake, Final Fantasy 7 remake,
Shenmue
there's probably
3.
more. Yeah, Shenmue 3.
Yeah.
Remake.
Dude, we could always talk about our old friend Jim Ryan, who said, I found this earlier, about indies no longer being relevant, saying there was a time and a place in the early stages of the life of the PS4 to make statements. It was more about making a statement that we are serious about the indies and that we are doing this and that with the indies. It was just good to talk about in 2013 and 2014. It's less relevant now. We have VR to talk about now, for example.
But
They don't learn, do they? They don't
fuck
learn.
off, Jim Ryan.
Yes. I'm loving this kind of trail through the entire sort of thing of E3 every now and again. Well, what else is there that's bad in the world? Well, let me tell you, the ponies trotted all over the floor again.
They don't learn. PS3, the story at the PS3 launch was, people will get 2 jobs to pay for this. And Sony paid for that heavily and learned slowly throughout the life of the PS3. They turned the ship around. Certainly for me, I felt much more positive toward PS3 by the end of that generation than I did at the beginning. And they seem to continue that through into PS4. And we thought, gullible idiot that I am, I thought that Sony learned and they put indies on their stage. They made sure that it was for the players. They made sure to take digs at what Microsoft were doing wrong. They made sure to be serious about putting their best foot forward at E3. And then you hear something like that and think, so the indies were just to get back in good graces. And as soon as you can kick them to the curb and say, we've done that now, what's next? We'll tell players what they want to see.
I think a lot of it
have
is
they not
Jim
learned?
Ryan.
Have they not seen what have happened to Microsoft in this generation? Have they not remembered what happened to them last generation?
I can only think that it is, from Jim Ryan, who's ostensibly in charge, saying, we've got to sell PSVRs, guys. We're not going to sell PSVRs if we spend 20 minutes of our show talking about indies. We need to talk about our VR games. They've got VRs to sell, and on a year where, without getting to the end too much, didn't really have much. I could have had 20 minutes about indies in the middle of this. I would have loved to have. And even the stupid way where they show a bit of the indie off and here's the developer. Please play my game. Here's another one. Please play my game. Here's another one. Play my game, please.
Well, I know we've had kind of the luxury of doing the big chats about these things, but Microsoft showed off a lot of games that I wouldn't normally have seen if they weren't on that conference. Plus, even that 90 seconds, 2 minute that they did with 16 odd games and stuff, there were still things where I was looking on that going like, oh, that looks good, what's that? And then there were odd bits, and I was trying to write them down, just thinking like, I'm gonna have to look at this afterwards because there's stuff that I want to know what it is.
Yeah, but you went to look at it afterwards.
Yeah, I did.
Because
and not just because of doing this, but I kind of wanted to make sure there was even stuff that was in that PC gaming show that's kind of coming to consoles. That even Devolver Digital, the story of Ditto, is it? Looks amazing.
Yeah.
Like really good. You've got the Tunic would have looked lovely in the PlayStation show. I don't know. We've gotten distracted by Big Jim again.
It does just baffle me because he says, or your theory is, and based on what he said, is they need to focus on VR. Well, the way you get more people making games for VR is if you give them a space on your show, indies a space to show their games, and then you say, look, we're your friend. How can we get you, having made this wonderful game on PS4, to do something for PSVR? You work with them, and you.
Sorry,
Let's not forget as well, when Sony were doing this big initiative with indies previously, when Microsoft were coming to the Xbox One in particular, they'd really stuffed up the indie stuff for the start of the Xbox One, and it said in this article, like, how are indie developers going to look at Sony when this is their view of them? And then you can look over the other side, and there was so much celebration and so much prominence in the Microsoft show for indies. And I like the fact that whilst they were launching sort of the super sparkly, glamorous version of the regular console, it wasn't the personal stuff. It was almost like they were celebrating games as an art form. Yeah. That you can go from beautiful pixel graphics to like, these real world sort of gorgeous, sparkly, beautiful things, and you were celebrating the art of games as a whole, and the family. And this just seems dismissive and kind of forgetful.
I tell you what else. When Microsoft launched the Xbox One and there was that massive backlash, for me, and I can't speak for anyone else, for me, a large part of that backlash wasn't about the box Microsoft showed. It was about the way they showed it and their attitude. And right now, given that Jim Ryan is head of PlayStation Global Sales and Marketing, this guy is a marketer for PlayStation. Their attitude right now versus the attitude that was, no, we're here for the players, we want games are where we're at, and we are here for gamers. The attitude Sony have right now versus Phil Spencer, who has spent the last 2-3 years talking up gaming, being positive about Sony and Microsoft, bringing backwards compatibility, whether or not only 2% of people actually, or only 2% of time on the console is spent with it. Thinking about what gamers want. Right now, I'm not really bothered whether the PS4 is the better box, quote unquote. I'm bothered about the attitude, and that makes a big difference to me as to where I feel good about playing my games.
It
really does.
I think part of the reason that I've always liked the different sides that Paddy and I have had on this anyway, because he's bringing something from PlayStation. I really warmed to like the Xbox side and stuff, but I think I really sort of attached to Spencer when he started really listening to people, and there were so many fixes on that console, and the turnaround in the ecosystem of the UI, and getting backwards compatibility sorted, and actually genuinely listening to people and what they wanted. That to me seemed cool, and I think that the shame of it with Sony is that you've got Jim Ryan doing this. We've got amazing people at Sony like Shu. You've got Holly Bennett. You've got Sean Layden's like a big games guy. Seems to be really into things. Mark Cerny. You've got really passionate people that are there. And when I see every single time Jim Ryan opens his mouth, it's like I don't want to forget those other people who love games to pieces.
Yeah.
And I don't get this. It's a very suit mentality. It doesn't seem games focused at all.
It's a very
have
soup
to-
show, isn't it? It's a very looking at the like. I just had a quick flick through the games lineup on the Sony show. Not getting ahead of ourselves, but every single one of these games is a disc game you can go and buy in game for £50. Every single one. There's not a single, from what I can see anyway. Obviously, I'm ignoring the VR games, but there doesn't seem to be a single game that's like, oh, this will be £8. This will be £15. Try this fun thing out, and it's like it's the priority shift. You're right, and like you were saying, they've got so many great people, like with Shu, no Shu this year, apart from in the trailers and the pre-show, which doesn't matter because the pre-show. Gio Corsi, who does the making the list bit, who comes out and he says, right, here's a shitload of games that you asked us to get. Here they are. Like that was brilliant last couple of years, and I think they're pushing E3 more as their big show where they show off their AAA stuff, and I think this PlayStation experience is where we will
That's
get
where they get to be PlayStation.
But that's fine. But that's a shit way to treat E3 because you want to show off. You want to show the indies that you care, because part of that thing, like we were saying, is what made PS4 at the start is that they seem so friendly to the indies, and they gave them a lot of time during their E3 shows, and it was like, oh, they're really good, and they got so many cool, unique, interesting games that we didn't think we'd get. The Vita had amazing indie library on it. Amazing. Like, some of my favourite versions of some of those games are on the Vita. I'll sit there and play Binding of Isaac and Rogue Legacy and Spelunky on the Vita for hours at a time. Shovel Knight plays like a dream on that thing. Like, getting that sort of thing on the handheld was amazing, and they've just forgotten about that in favour of here's £50 disc game. It baffles me. It baffles me. And they've got so many cool people. And even like Sean Layden was on stage this year for a grand total of about 6 minutes.
Yeah. And this is the weird thing, because in previous years, Jim Ryan didn't get the opportunity to say this nonsense. I'm sorry, to me it's nonsense. He's been presented with issues, and in straight out of Microsoft's 2013 playbook, here's an issue, I'm going to dismiss it. I'm not even going to pretend it's an issue. I don't care, is his response.
There was a great piece in this article, again, I just have to sort of mention earlier, where they were talking about crossplay between Minecraft. And he said, firstly, he tried to justify Sony's refusal to do crossplay with the finesse of a bulldozer punching a hole through the neck of the gazelle.
Can't he just fuck off and work for Zynga now? Like, go
the way of Matrix.
Voice
back?
I don't know whether this is coming from Sony, that he is being put forward as the person to speak to. Because, as you say, they've got other people they can put forward, and they have in the past used other people, primarily. And we haven't heard from Jim Ryan, or whether the media have sensed this guy's going to say some stupid stuff, let's go and speak to him. And that's not a criticism of the media. If you've got Donald Trump there, go and ask him a question that you know you're going to get a stupid answer to, because we can all have a bit of fun at that. The problem is, this is now the face of Sony, as far as I can tell. Sean Layden's on stage, but he's the guy that is getting all of these headlines. He's the guy that people are hearing from. And where is everyone else? Because I don't get the sense that their attitude to games and PlayStation has changed. So either Sony have decided that Jim Ryan's the guy they want to speak for them, in which case more fool them, as far as I'm concerned, or he happens to be getting the headlines because he's saying stupid stuff. In which case, hopefully Sony will realise and they'll gag him at some point, because they need to stop him.
And that sort of stupid comment, makes the rounds so much faster. Because like, oh, look what this dumbass is like, especially in Twitter. This Twitter age we've got. I know about a lot of this stuff from Twitter. People sharing the screen caps of the article. And of course, that's going to fly around because they've said something monumentally stupid, and everyone goes, "Oh, look what this stupid guy said," and it's just hurts the brand in such a fundamental way. Because it's wank. Speaking of wank.
Hey you, stop fighting, unless you're going to get into a Marvel costume, and you're going to get into a Capcom costume, and you're going to have a fight.
Gonna fight for infinity amount of time. Can I just, before we start this, what a load of wank this was.
I don't even remember it.
Big pile of wank.
I'm so looking forward to this game.
Alright, go on.
Over the years, I've been getting more. I've always been like Street Fighter is one of the first games. Street Fighter 2 is one of the first games I remember being wowed by on a console, along with Super Mario All Stars. That for the color, for the animation, for the movement on screen. The TV I had that I played my Super Nintendo on had a crackle on the top where I kept hitting it because I got angry as a kid who couldn't beat, which it was Sagat, I think, probably, who couldn't beat a boss, and so it ended up with a crackle on the top. Still worked, thankfully, but and recently, of recent years, I've been getting more back into. I'm still useless at fighting games, but I follow the professional scene. I've been putting a lot of time into Injustice 2 since it came out. Picked up Tekken 7, had a great evening playing with my other half. And,
we need to have a night of that soon, by the way. We need to do that.
Okay, you realise I can't really play Tekken so much as just be there as Tekken is played on a controller sat in my lap.
That's fine.
And Street Fighter 4 and 5 and Marvel vs. Capcom 3 have been games that I have paid a lot of attention to and put some time into. Never really got good at, but I had a lot of fun just reading about, hearing about, watching and playing myself. And I'm really interested in this because the best time to get into any fighting game is when it comes out. There are obviously going to be people who know the systems, know the style of fighting game and pick it up quicker, but you get in while people are still learning the game and you get to learn it along with them. And this was a chance because Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is an incredibly difficult game to get into if you didn't really start playing anything of it properly until like a couple of years back. And this, again, Capcom are purporting to try and make it more accessible for new players, but keep the depth. They're changing the system so that the assists aren't such a big thing, so you don't need to know the character interactions quite as well. You can kind of pick characters you like the look of instead of for their effectiveness in a team. And they've changed the art style. So Marvel vs. Capcom 3 had the cell shading comic book art style, and they've changed it to be a more shiny, polished, not realistic, I wouldn't say, but it's something different. And the character roster's gone in a different direction in terms of the Marvel stuff because they want to put their cinematic universe characters forward as the stars of the show. So we haven't seen any X-Men, we haven't seen any Fantastic Four because they don't own the rights to them in films. So there's been some suggestion that they've played down them in comics as well because they can't make full use of those characters in all of the media that Marvel and Disney want to have a finger in the pie of. And so I've been looking forward to this, and I've heard people say they didn't really like the art style, and I've heard people worry as to whether what we've seen in trailers so far. It was originally announced last year at PlayStation Experience in December. We got to see some footage of it then. We've had slow drips of announcements, but always with the notion that they're going to bring this together. Capcom have talked about learning from the mistakes they made with launching Street Fighter V. They're going to make sure they get in full, single-player stuff. They're going to make sure it's finished. And yeah, they're probably going to have a small roster and add to it, maybe even with X-Men characters over time, because Street Fighter V has done well for them with the DLC-heavy kind of approach. And that all sounded great by me. And all the way along the line, anyone I've spoken to or heard from who's played it has always said this plays great. No need for reservations about the change they're making. This plays great. And then that was the trailer they decided to put on the biggest gaming show, the last gaming show that they're going to really get to spread their wings at before the game comes out in September. Less than 3 months.
I'll give you a little bit of contrast though as well. What has been one of the biggest games, absolutely the biggest surprise of E3, but one of the games with the public that's been getting the biggest lines, it's that Dragon Ball FighterZ game.
FighterZ, yeah.
Which looks like out Capcom.
Mental.
But apparently the Capcom game looked for me as someone who's kind of always looked at these games a bit from the outside. I tried a bit of 3. Was it the one that was on the PS3?
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, but for me, Marvel Capcom games are not my speed of fighting game. It's
They're nigh on
fast.
impenetrable if you don't sit down, and
Christ.
you can mash something out that looks quite fun and impressive. But yeah, they're nigh on impenetrable if you don't sit down and actually try to learn them. Which was the hope here, that they could do something that allowed people to get into it, but also still catered to the professional fighting game community.
Yeah, but I mean, let's talk about the elephant in the room. What have they done with the faces?
They can't be
Where
finished.
did Chun-Li's eyebrows go?
They can't be finished. Dante and Chun-Li looked like... They looked
PS2
wrong. It's the only way I
characters.
can describe it. They looked wrong. Those faces did not look like actual people's faces.
Every shot I've seen of like a close-up of one of the Capcom faces particularly are the worst ones.
Yeah.
Like the Marvel ones are just comic people, which is fine, but the Capcom Dante and Chun-Li, like particularly Dante, I think is worse. Like it just looks like the hair texture's
His hair
all
looks
wrong.
like a wig.
Yep.
He looks ill in his face, is the only way I can describe it.
And not as good looking as the wig that the guy from the Dante from DMC looked like, because that wig at least looked like a wig. This is just like cardboardy, like really badly alpha channeled hair. It's awful.
During Injustice 2's kind of wind up to release, in the kind of year or so after it was announced, there were shots of particularly Supergirl and Wonder Woman's faces that had that super uncanny valley problem going on, and they changed those. They did. They released videos, and there were screenshot comparisons, video comparisons, and they improved them. And actually, Injustice 2, I think, is a
astonishing,
fantastic
the facial
looking
capture.
game.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Astonishing.
Just, I think it's really wonderful, and completely different art style from Guilty Gear Xrd, but up there in terms of how it looks as a fighting game. I really think that. I talked about it when we talked Dragon Ball Fighter Z. I think it's a great looking game. I'm hoping that 3 months is enough time for Capcom to do whatever they did to the Marvel characters to, particularly as we said, Dante and Chun-Li. I hope they have the ability to do that, because there's been some people kind of looking at a character like Nova in the character in the story mode demo that came out. His character art that's there, and there's like extra lighting and like there's an extra layer of polish on that character art compared to Dante, and it looks like maybe it's not quite final revision on those. But why is that your trailer? If that's the state your trailer was at, why didn't you say, you know what, pull it? We'll have to do something else. Because I get that a slot on Sony's E3 stage is a big deal, but when that's the trailer you put out, I was literally looking at it wondering what I was watching. That was actually what my thought going through my head wasn't, oh great, they're putting in a story mode and we get to see Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. My excitement is growing. It's, what is this and why is it here?
It's not what you want when you're trying to show off a trailer for a game, is it?
It really isn't.
That's not the reaction.
From someone who's actually looking forward to the game and knows they're going to get it on day one. And to be fair, by all accounts, there was a lot of the fighting game community, people that I follow on Twitter and have watched play Street Fighter and Marvel competitions, tournaments. A lot of them saying, and actually having to defend themselves because people can't believe what they're saying. So immediately the assumption is, oh, they're Capcom shills. They're actually saying, no, we'd tell you if this was as bad as it looks because we want to, have a dig over the way that this came across and the way it's being presented. But actually, the game is as good as we could hope for.
Yeah.
And so, great, that's good. That's restores some of my faith. But Capcom have been here with Street Fighter V. They let themselves down to the point where the fighting game community accepted it for the most part. It's been very popular, but the mainstream audience didn't. They just didn't at all. And this was their chance to fix that, and that's the way they went about it, with their biggest mainstream audience that they could have shown the game to. It's
but like
baffling.
the whole market, like you say, like the sole concession to the mainstream audience is, hey, look at all these Marvel Cinematic Universe characters we've got.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
they're all,
Yep.
I think with one exception, I think Cinematic Universe people, and I don't care.
Well, the one exception is Nova, who technically they could bring in any time they want because he's from the Nova. That is
Yeah,
the same place.
there's
So
a link
Guardians
there,
of the
definitely.
Galaxy, they've touched on that area.
Christ.
But yeah, and they've done, I think, a reasonable job. If they can't have Wolverine in there, they've got Black Panther, so they're kind of covering their bases. But X-Men in particular and Doom from Fantastic Four, that's big holes in the roster. I might have a spreadsheet where I've totted up which characters were in which Marvel and Capcom crossover games and who are the most commonly used, etc. Just because I had a spare 5 minutes. And there are holes here, I think, still. And it'd be nice to see some of those filled. The roster doesn't necessarily worry me too much because they're going to be putting out at least 6 characters a year if they follow their Street Fighter V template. So, and actually, I think this game could stand to have more than that, and they could go for 8 or 10 a year if they really wanted to fill out that roster fast.
My concern with that is that that's going to settle into the marketing model that now they can DLC it better, fine, but like the Street Fighter 4 model, I used to get. I mean, I don't play those games, but I used to get so mad about like, every 8
year
months.
there was a new,
here's
here's
another version with 3 new people. Here's another version with 5 new people. Like, just release them as DLC at this point, guys. You must have known. You must have known. And it's like, and I get people love it, and they buy it and they play each version they get. They play for 100, 200, 300 hours. You get your money's worth out of the game. But as an outside observer, like, why would I want to buy this when I know that it's going to be not complete?
The multiple versions was one of the big reasons that the fighting game genre kind of imploded for a while. I mean, also Street Fighter 3 was incredibly technical and off-putting to new people coming into the fighting game community. But that was a big thing when they launched Street Fighter 4, was they needed to get newcomers on side, and then be it arcade editions or yearly revisions or full-on super and ultra revisions, there was a new disc or a sizable new version to add as DLC every year, I think, pretty much through its release, certainly from 2011 onwards.
Definitely.
And they got away with it. And to me, the notion of Street Fighter V as this is the one you have to buy, everything else will be DLC on top of this. They've said there will be no other version. Now, there's some people speculating that there might be a super version, but as long as whatever update that is given away free to people who have the original disc or download, that's fine. That still works. They're just packaging stuff together to sell to people who want the job lot. But they have made so many mistakes with Street Fighter V that my hope was they wouldn't repeat that with Marvel vs. Capcom. And it sounds like they're doing the same again, i.e. what for many people is a great core fighting system surrounded by evidence that Capcom don't know how to make a fully functioning fighting game anymore. They can make a great fighting system, but in terms of what single-player stuff needs to be in there, how their multiplayer needs to run, actually putting in a multiplayer that isn't dragged down by lag. I mean, they've had to retool aspects of their game, basically fight fires on Street Fighter V in the year and 4 months since it came out. And all the while saying, we're going to make sure we improve our communication, followed by 2 months of complete silence. It's been just a mess. And again, as for saying that Jim Ryan's an example that Sony don't seem to have learned from past mistakes, it looks like the same again. It breaks my heart because I'm a person who loves fighting games, but when I think fighting games, I think Street Fighter and Capcom and Marvel vs. Capcom. I should have been delirious at this point in the show, and I was not even devastated, just bemused.
Yeah.
Bizarre.
Bizarre.
It's
CJ?
kind of feel bad that we've even spent this much time on it, but
No, this is the big conference. We go in depth on these ones. CJ, you got anything on Marvel?
I like not particularly on this game, but I've tried playing fighting games, and they just work in a way that my brain doesn't, and they require a lot of dedication, a lot of time. I do love watching Street Fighter 5 as an esport. I can watch that forever on Twitch with the right people on it, especially like Evo and stuff's fantastic.
Yeah.
I've mentioned it before, but True Talent is a Street Fighter expert who taught me a lot about Soul stuff, and it's been a pleasure to watch his Injustice 2 streams, and he's even gone into Tekken, where he seemed like it was something that he wouldn't be fussed with, and he's mesmerised by it. So I do love. Oh, and I'll factor into that For Honor as well. I've really enjoyed watching his For Honor streams, but it's something I've tried to play, and just my brain just doesn't work like that. I'm just not geared up for it, sadly. I do need to nip to the loo now.
Yeah, I was going to say I think I need a pee break as well, so I'm just going to note the time.
Yeah.
2:21. Grab a drink.
BRP.
Oh, fuck me. Bye.
So we then move on to Call of Duty World War II. Butts on the ground. Get your butts on the ground. Butts.
What if the ground is
butts
lava?
On the ground. You got no butts.
I'm no
Excited for this, into this. I'm not, but it's not really my flag of the veil.
That was really well done, because I was quite surprised. Then, like, you're not into this? What are you talking about? That was well said. That sentence was a roller coaster. Thank you for that.
Yes, very well done, sir. That was majestic. A bit
90s, like super well into this. Not.
Rad.
Modern Warfare 2 was the last Call of Duty I played. Haven't gone back to it since, and haven't really felt I was missing it. That's not to throw shade on the series. I don't buy the whole Call of Duty is the same game every year. It's popular and successful, not just because of good marketing. I think it's been, and presume that it continues to be, a great series. But yeah, Boots on the Ground seems to be the sort of raison d'etre for this particular game. They wanted to go back. They heard a lot of complaints from Call of Duty in space, and so this time they're putting boots on the ground and going back to WW2.
Didn't they start this though like 3 years ago? So Call of Duty wasn't in space at that point, was it?
Maybe
no,
they were making that one at the same time.
It wasn't, but they'd already had advanced warfare with jetpacks by that point. But yeah, they're now on. They've now got 3 devs alternating between being main developer on the series. So yeah, they now go to, I guess, every 3rd year. Yeah.
But like, I like the boots on the ground thing. You know, it sort of almost ties back to the franchise as a whole. You know, they're going back to where they started, because Call of Duty games were World War II games back when remember the days of, oh god, not another World War II game.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and I think Battlefield proved that last year that actually there was a call for going back to that kind of historic, or rather period, warfare simulator, I guess, in a way. Although, so they took some liberties with what was possible with World War or Great War weaponry, etc.
So that call back to is almost the dutiful call.
Behave.
So,
shut your mouth.
Does somebody want to flourish away with Jim Ryan's favourite, the PlayStation VR games that are on their way? I will.
I'm well excited.
Yeah, my favourite is Fishing Fish to Sea 15.
Well, let's do these in order. Let's start from the top. So they led with, right, now get this, right, who'd have thought in 2017 that this would be the 17th time we'd see Skyrim announced for something?
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of cool they're putting it in VR. Doesn't that already exist on Steam? Because apparently this is a console.
It exists in the Bible. It's been everywhere.
So I believe there is a piece of software you can use on PC that basically allows you to play any game in VR, but no, Skyrim has not had a VR version. So so in my notes I put console exclusive on the basis that there is no way this doesn't end up on Vive, presuming that's where Fallout and Doom are coming to. And likewise, I think if they can do it, I don't see a reason why Doom and Fallout 4 don't end up on PSVR, because with VR games you need them everywhere to get sales. So why wouldn't you?
The market's too diverse at the minute. There's too many different hats you can wear. You want to make sure your game is
although
all
in the
hats.
case of Bethesda, they ain't going to be wearing the Oculus hat anytime soon.
True.
So yeah, again, if they want it on console, they need to put it on PSVR. But yeah, quite a coup, I think, for Sony, having this as some kind of exclusive, whether that turns out that it's day and date with PC, but it's still the only place you can play it if you're console VR. And to get to announce it.
Yeah. But as we said the other week, as we said on Bethesda, we poo-poo and go, oh, Skyrim again every time it comes out, but people still love it.
It's a big deal, just, not for me, unfortunately. But
I imagine for me, I think it'll work better than Fallout VR, like, from the base of it, because you're, rather than trying to aim a gun with your VR controller, you're just flailing a stick about.
Swinging, yeah.
And it might make the combat, good. It won't.
Steady on.
Yeah.
Steady on.
Because imagine if the combat in Skyrim was good. Like, not just press R1 to swing sword at thing in front of you. That's the entire combat. Oh,
if the combat in Skyrim was good, it would be Witcher. No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't at all. But yeah, it wouldn't be Skyrim for me. I didn't particularly enjoy the combat. It was something you had to get through to see the open world. I
specialised in archery on my run of Skyrim, so I tried to avoid the combat as much as possible by taking everyone out from 3 miles away.
Yeah, I'm all sorts of stealth when it comes to Bethesda open world games. So it's lots of sneaking past and avoiding combat altogether, or if I have to, I'll sneak up and stab someone in the back before they know I'm there. So mainly avoids that.
So Starchild next then.
No idea.
What this looks like?
Okay, so on a coma for all of this.
On PlayStation, on the PlayStation VR Worlds, like the demo kind of game they made that had the heist on it, the absolutely excellent the heist on it. There was a game where you sit in the cockpit of a ship. I've talked about it a few times on the show. You sit in the cockpit of a ship and you kind of trumpet around and you stand on alien bugs and you fly around in space in your ship and you're sat down but the ship's moving. This looked like that but turned into a full game. And for me, that's all right. I guess it was fun. I enjoyed it.
I'm not misremembering. This was the one where there was a 2D section where player ran across the screens, enemy came down and threatened it, and then a giant robot hand slammed in the way.
I think so. So. But aesthetically, it looked very similar to what we'd seen.
Yes, sure, yeah.
First person thing, but like, are you the monster on that? That slams his hand down? Because
maybe at some point you climb into the robot and that is a spaceship in a kind of Zone of the Enders style.
Because that whole bit looked like you're going to be that. Like, here's a giant thing with hands and a head. Like, anytime you see a VR game and you see something that's basically just a head with 2 pair of hands, like, right, that's the thing I'm going to be.
Yeah.
So kind of strange to not sort of see more of that stuff. But, yeah, fine. Looks all right, I guess. If you've got a VR, which you don't, because you like your money. CJ, anything?
Don't remember any of this VR stuff. I think I just switched off.
You must remember the Inpatient. That was...
I think you'll be surprised, sir, when I tell you no.
So, creepy old guy, you're in some kind of seemingly mental or medical institution where you are being held potentially against your will and seem to be being experimented on.
No.
Not ringing any bells? It's made by same group of people that are making Hidden Agenda that we talked about earlier, Supermassive Games, who made Until Dawn, and this apparently it didn't say so in the trailer as far as I could tell, is related to Until Dawn in some way, shape, or form. I think I heard someone say prequel, but I'll caveat that with
that rings a bell. But I think more over hearing somebody else sort of talk about it in that regard.
Sure,
but don't know. It's sticking in my head.
Horror games in VR pretty effective apparently.
Yeah, I can imagine that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah,
but does it? I mean, this looked like it would be fine in not VR. Like,
that's the
I'd play it with
trick,
a controller.
I guess. Isn't it? Is how many of these VR games work outside, and hopefully, I presume you'll be able to play it that way.
Like an Outlast almost, that played fine.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Or Resident Evil 7 for that matter of fact.
There you go. Yeah, true. Good point. So this is the one that I know CJ's going to remember. Final Fantasy 15.
I remember thinking, what happened to the other VR stuff, or did they just decide to do this
there was one
instead?
They showed that like 2 years ago, I think, where it was like Prompto doing some shoot gun with his VR headset on, and it looked silly.
It didn't get a particularly good response from the people that played it.
This was last year, wasn't it?
It didn't look that good though.
And everyone kind of lashed back at the perving in a car VR experience.
Oh yeah, that bit, yeah. But like the main game, like guns of it was, shoot at the behemoth from a sitting position, don't move.
Yeah, and everyone said why, and then
run around and do it again. Yeah. Why?
I think everyone said why, and or that's actually offensive to the car bit, and they, I presume, abandoned it in favour of fishing, which seems like a safer bet, to be honest. Especially if you can pull out a monster that eats you.
To be honest, I'm actually okay with this one. This looked really fun.
Yeah, I think so.
Laura played a lot of the Final Fantasy 15 fishing. Like she played a lot.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's good, and I think a VR version of that could be really fun. I don't think there is a VR fishing game out there yet, like not a big one anyway.
There's probably something on PC, I would imagine, but
it doesn't count. Absolutely. It doesn't count. It's like Sony pre-show. It doesn't count. It's for me like the best part of the whole trailer. Admittedly, the giant monster that comes out and eats you was pretty funny, but the bit where it showed you just sitting around in the campsite, first-person campsite bit. Go on, my son, have a bit of that.
Just as horror is particularly effective in VR, I don't get the impression we've seen a lot of, certainly not publicised heavily and advertised heavily, a lot of examples of, well, if playing with emotions and really getting immersed in the game is something that VR does well, why not use it as a relaxation method? Why not use it as a simulation for fishing that allows you to get out of it what people get out of fishing? Which is relaxing, sitting next to water, enjoying your environment, getting away from the world, that kind of thing. Yeah,
and reading a book while you leave your fishing rod sat on a stick and just sitting back and reading a book.
Yeah.
I remember you when you were I saw
yeah. And I saw the tweet shortly after it that called it Final Fantasy 15, and that's all I can think of it as now. What's the sub? Is it Monster of the Deep, isn't it? Or something
Monster
like
of
that?
the Deep, yeah.
Yeah. See, I called it Fishing Fish to See 15, which means that I am the true champion.
You caught the most fish.
3 fish.
There are 15 instances of the word fish in that title. This how that works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm cautious. The problem with all that we are there's so far been 4 games that we've been kind of like, yeah, that seems all right. But the problem with all of them is that they're all VR, which I haven't got.
Yeah.
And
not one of them on their own or even collectively is necessarily going to sell you a 350 quid VR headset plus the camera and the Move controllers.
As fun as it is, I don't want to spend that and then spend another £20 to £30 per 3-hour game.
Yeah, or less than that. Frankly, yeah.
I suppose this is what Skyrim VR's there for. Play a very old game in VR. Oh, you remember the Fighters Guild? Oh, that's fun, isn't it? Do that again.
Yeah.
What's next? I'm getting depressed. What's next?
Bravo Team, which looked like the most bland thing I've seen for a long time. It was third-person shooter, as far as I could tell. It was brown and it was green and it
Counter-Strike VR is what
Bravo
I got out of this.
Team. Yeah, that kind of bell seemed to be ringing. I'm pretty sure it was third-person. I certainly remember seeing a character that I could not be less interested in. unfortunately, which I think I want to say is also coming from Supermassive Games. I might have to check that because that sounds ridiculous to say.
Yeah.
But,
CJ, I bet you're well up for this, aren't you?
there must be something more to this.
Bayek.
You keep talking about that lad from Assassin's Creed, and you're not going to buy it.
I'm just enjoying his name.
Yeah, it's coming from Supermassive Games, who seem to be doing interesting things with VR and really have taken a shine to it. I can only hope that they have something that didn't come across in that trailer.
Yeah, you want to give them the benefit.
Didn't get it.
You want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but
Yeah.
this did not look that good. This looked shaky.
Yeah, it really didn't to me, I'm afraid. I'm just a big poo head, evidently.
It's okay. We're allowed to be poo heads on this show. It's fine. You're allowed to be a poo boy. So next up then was probably the interesting highlight outside of first person VR campsites of this, which was Moss.
Yeah.
Moss, a game that has a bunny in it that's also a VR game, which I got a bit confused about. Do you play God and throw the bunny about? Or CJ, I assume you've looked into this.
Is it a bunny or is it a mouse?
Is it a mouse?
I thought bunny, but yeah, I think there was kind of a grey area there, to be honest.
Let me Google it. What is it?
It's a bunny. It's a mouse.
It's a Degu.
It's apparently it's by ex-Bungie developers.
Okay.
Good.
I just thought I'd let you know that I'm currently doing research where I'm
the ones that weren't allowed to make Destiny.
I'm looking at an animal which I think is a mouse.
Yeah, no, you might be right.
Looking at that now, that is the mousiest mouse. The game's called Moss. That's basically the word mouse.
March.
I'm playing mouse.
I don't know why I thought bunny. That was just my memory playing tricks on me, I think.
It's got big ears, though. I don't mean to body shame, but...
It's not an elephant, though, is it?
Yeah. What was it about this trailer that gave everyone the impression that you play as some kind of god being helping the mouse rather than as the mouse itself?
Well,
was it the reflection in the pool and the orb flying about?
Maybe you play it like you look down, like you say the reflection in the pool. Maybe you actually like turn your head to look down and you see yourself. Like when in Tearaway, when you point the camera up at this thing and you see yourself like laughing at your own character going,
there was a very Ghibli-looking masked being reflected in the water at one point. And I've got vague memories of the environment being manipulated by an apparent outside source, but that, I guess, it brings into question whether you are the mouse or an omnipotent kind of helper. But
well, it says here in the Engadget article, even though Moss feels like a flashback to older adventure games, that's ultimately a good thing. I enjoyed moving Quill around the environments. That's the mouse's name. Yep. And the combat is fast and fluid. It reminds me of games like Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which took up countless hours of my life simply because they felt good to play. That looks like an absolute belter.
So you do definitely play as the mouse then, which is what I'd prefer, frankly.
Yeah.
I don't want to be passive in this. I want to be the mouse and feel like a mouse in a hostile environment facing up against a giant snake.
It says here, you exist as a character in the game that Quill interacts with. While also controlling her from afar. At one point early on, you look down into a pool of water and you see your reflection. You're an ominous figure wearing a face mask, like something out of a Miyazaki film. You can reach out and grab objects in the world using the DualShock 4 controller, which is essential for puzzle solving. And if you want, you can also just reach out and pet Quill from tummy to ear.
Okay, so you play as both, essentially, then?
Yeah. That sounds really neat.
I wouldn't necessarily want to play that game and not... also be the mouse. I think that would be far too ripe for playing with the player's emotions if you were in charge of but not the mouse, and in the kind of that dog's going to die kind of way, because it's the emotional heartstring to pull. So yeah, good, happy about that.
Is that the TV tropes article for it? That dog's going to die.
Basically, yeah.
So back to the big stuff, the groovy stuff. God of War. What do you make of this little trailer, Rooney?
Beardman, yes, please give me my Beardman now. Fuck, love God of War. Okay, so we talked about this last year when I got really excited about that reveal at the start. You know, I love the new direction they're taking. I think it's a really good, like a really brave step for them to take. I think, like moving away from the I'm just angry at gods all the time, which before we get, I am fine with. I liked Kratos for all the complaints that people had about his character being one note. Pretty good note. I enjoyed that note. Being just unrelentingly furious at everything and everyone. That's fine. Sometimes you need that. But then just the way that just completely change him, you know, to give him someone, you know, a son, you know, someone to depend on him again. You know, it seems to be giving you a new purpose in life, maybe outside of I'm going to kill all the. Well, to be fair, he did kill all the gods, so there's none of the gods left to kill. I thought visually, like the trailer was beautiful. I'm not sure if I like the new axe or not yet. I think it's fun that you can lob it miles and then it comes back. I think that's pretty brilliant. And
they also made a big deal of not retrieving it after the previous fight, wandering on, and then getting that kind of badass moment of, here I am unarmed in a fight. Oh no, wait, here comes my magic axe.
With that kind of Thor.
Yeah, I did like that. I do have a bit of a theory about this game that Dad of War is going to get to about 3/4 of the way through. There's going to be a massive moment where Kratos sacrifices himself to save his son, and then goes, "Son, the power is yours now." And it becomes basically Lad of War, when the little boy is like a young child that's got the power of Kratos, and that's where it kind of moves into its finale, or like dealing with loss or loneliness, and then moves into its finale. But I think that's where it's going to go. I don't think Kratos is going to see out this game.
No.
I hope that he does. I think you're onto something with the kid, though. I think there's going to be a point where you have to maybe take control of the kid. I don't think Kratos will die at the end, because don't kill my boy.
I'll tell you what would be cool.
To be fair, he survived a shitload. Like, he's died like 6 times. I'll
tell you what would be cool if they did the transference of power to the boy, and that Kratos was basically an ordinary man, and the boy with the power of a god had to protect his father, who was an ordinary human, and yet Kratos has still got this like gung-ho. No, not just that. This like gung-ho level to him, and that he's, you know, there's a human man, but he's kind of
who's now a massive danger to himself.
Not even that. That he's got this will to fight, to stand his ground, and to kind of make a show of himself, even though he's not got those powers anymore. But you could still see him like run at a bear and like smash an axe into its head, even though he's got none of the powers. And the boy is sort of trying to instill a little calm in his father and try and pull him back, but he's not got that extra protection, that extra resonance. But the boy is then trying to step up with powers that he can't understand, or he's got no comprehension of. Like, to quote from there was a thing years ago, Second Coming miniseries on ITV, where a guy called Steve, who worked in a video shop in Manchester, gets it's the Second Coming of Jesus Christ. And they asked him what it's like, and he was like, "It's like trying to download all of creation into a pocket calculator." And I quite like that aspect. I just think it'd be really unusual.
See, I think, for me, I like that they're moving away from the blades of chaos, the chains.
Yeah.
I think that's like, thematically, I really enjoy that, because it's they've literally been removed from him. Like, they are a big part of those early games. You know, the chains of war are that's the weapon. You know, that was Kratos, and I think the fact they've given him the new axe is just redefining who he is. You know, with a new weapon, new way of doing things, new style, a new boy to level up. Because you level up the boy, you don't level up yourself. You level up that boy, which is very interesting.
That boy.
Go ahead, James. You sound like
so obviously the chains being removed, whether it's by him or or not is very symbolic, because those were the chains that essentially tied him to that previous life. He was, by many judgments, a slave to the tricks that were played on him and the life that he'd ended up being part of, and that anger and the plaything of the gods, etc. Although being, one of the gods, he was still at their mercy a lot. And so removing those chains is a sign that he has, they're shackles that have been lifted from him. So yeah, absolutely get that. Now, it may well be smoke and mirrors, but Cory Barlog, I have heard both firsthand and secondhand via various interviews and stuff this week, has said you won't play as the boy at all in the game. There is a son button because he is your primary method of interpreting language in the game, which was the whole kind of scene where he's interpreting for the big sea snake type thing, sea beast type thing. And there will be parts in the game where you need the boy to kind of do that for you in order to puzzle solve, etc.
Do you think, you say there's a sun button, do you think when he fucks up, Kratos uses the cross button?
But he's also said that this game's kind of based on his paternal experiences, which raised somewhat of an eyebrow for me, because if that's anything like what he meant was that his son is growing up bilingual Swedish and English, and despite the fact that Cory Barlog's wife and her family are Swedish, he's not really managed to grasp the language, so his son is kind of an interpreter for him. So that's where that comes from.
Well, that's cool.
But he's also said not to expect Kratos to have a massive change of character by the end of the game, and to maybe expect that actually a small change for Kratos would be an incredibly big thing, given how, as you said, Paddy, he is seen as kind of, one note's the bad way of saying that, but a very deliberate and singular type of character. And so the whole thing about him not really knowing or learning how to be a father, well, any small change in the direction, or in the way he treats his son, or the way he thinks of himself, might actually be a pretty big thing. So he's tempered some of the questions that people have asked about, well, does that mean Kratos is going to become a father by the end of the game? Does that mean we're going to take control of the boy and see Kratos from a different angle? And he's saying that's not where they're going with this. As I say, could be smoke and mirrors, because I agree, CJ, that your interpretation of that, and not that Kratos dies and you take over the sun, it's a whole new god of war, essentially, with all the anger from having lost his father. Actually, there is an interesting side to the notion that Kratos, as this old man who doesn't have the ability to fight but still has the fighting spirit, needs to be reined in by his son, who could grow into someone as powerful as he was.
Just like it when you get that kind of caveat quirk, like in the
definitely
in the 90s with the Incredible Hulk, where they had the Incredible Hulk basically had Bruce Banner's mind as the Hulk. So he was stylish, he was intelligent, but he had to stop himself from getting angry, because essentially he'd turn into Bruce Banner's body with the Hulk's mentality, which was superb. And I just quite like to see them not do the obvious thing and sort of run at something that's a little bit left of centre, and it becomes more memorable at that point.
Unless we go the other way and he accidentally kills the kid again, because that was the whole setup for the first game.
And drinks him with straw like an umbongo.
Literally wearing the ashes of his dead family for God knows how long. Like that's his whole arc.
You're a happy soul today, aren't you?
The Sony show was depressing.
We'll have to see, I guess. But I think there's still plenty in the trailer to be hopeful that for those who saw last year and were pleased with the new direction, I think there's plenty in this trailer to back that up. And for those who saw last year's trailer and were kind of concerned that maybe it would lose what made God of War God of War, I kind of got the feeling that there was some of that in this trailer with the combat we got to see, because last year's combat felt. I mean, God of War was always quite cinematic, but felt quite scripted and maybe not as freeform and creative as you could be with a hack and slash game. Since last year, I went and played a bit of God of War 1, bit of God of War 2, bit of God of War Ascension, and made it about an hour into each of them before I couldn't play anymore and didn't want to play anything else of it. So this is kind of, again, one where I'll sit back and kind of watch, but maybe hedge my bets as to whether I think it's for me. Not least of all because of Jim Ryan.
Well,
go on. Big Jim.
This was just
What's he done this time? Oh,
patronising,
Jim.
wasn't it?
Go on.
So
what was it? Come on, I'm ready for this.
The new direction of God of War is at least partly in Jim Ryan's marketing mind a response to the fact that God of War hasn't done as well in Europe as it has in America. And his explanation for this is that Europeans prefer narrative games. They're not really fond of hack and slash style action games.
Oh, eat my dick, Jim Ryan.
First of all, why one or the other? Second of all,
I always considered God of War both, to be honest.
God of War had a narrative, which means that that means that if he's right, Europeans don't not like hack and slash and prefer narrative. They just don't like God of War's narrative. He's actually not right further, because as soon as I saw this pop up, this was about a week before E3, I went and looked on looked for sale figures on VG charts, and he's right. In Europe, God of War series has sold generally around half of what it sells in America. What he's not right about is for Devil May Cry and Bayonetta, other hack and slash games, they sell much better in Europe compared to how they sell in America. They still sell slightly less, but it's much more even.
So it's any surprise coming from a man whose favourite game is probably Excel spreadsheet.
It's unbelievable. So it's not hack and slash
Eve
games
Online.
that Europe doesn't like. It's apparently if we're to be believed, it's God of War that Europe doesn't like. And again, that may be that they want to change the direction, see if they can do something different with it. It may be they just haven't managed to capture a European market for any number of reasons. But the reductive, dismissive nature of the way that he deals with people, it seems, and certainly video game players, is just baffling. To just say an entire continent doesn't like the style of gameplay. No, they like the narrative games. Come on.
Just,
it's
I mean,
wrong on so many levels.
I can see God of War, changing into what I think you said quite astutely earlier, James, like turning into a more Sony game. Sort of style of, camera behind you, run around, have a story, making it more like a traditional. Fine, but just to sort of say it in such a dismissive, the Europeans prefer narrative. No, stop it.
Games should not be made by looking at things with that degree of kind of skepticism, because and that sort of a, I don't know, things that light a fire under people are generally for different reasons, and not because something's preordained and. Yeah,
and there's nuance there. It's a complexity. You can't just say about an entire continent that X is preferable to Y. You look at and if someone who doesn't know anything about making a video game, can just pop onto VGCharts.com and completely pull the rug out from under what he's saying. In 5 minutes, it took me to pull up Bayonetta's sales statistics, Devil May Cry's, and God of War's, and poke a giant big hole in his argument. What is he doing? It's literally Donald Trump levels of incompetence.
He's the Boris Johnson of Sony.
Perfect,
God,
perfect
that's
example.
it.
Absolutely. Unbelievable.
Europeans don't like narrative. They like cake. Fluffy cake.
And then played Whifflaff.
Anyway.
What do we make of Detroit Become Human, which has been in development a long time?
It has.
Controversially, I'm into this.
Even more controversially, I kind of am too.
Hey!
Even more controversially, actually not very controversially,
You're not.
this sort of thing is my bag generally sci-fi wise, but the game looks pretty interesting. I'd like to see David Cage actually pull something off like really spectacularly, just to see the articles and his how his critics might react and stuff. And I've said before, like even though David Cage's games aren't for me, I like that David Cage is making games, because I just wonder if he might sort of stumble onto something a little bit sort of bonkers that works at a certain point and just throw things up in the air. But yeah, it looks interesting. I won't play it, but I'll watch it from afar on this one.
So here's my David Cage rant again, because we talked about this before, but I think it needs saying again. Like, I would really like it, internet, if you just get off his dick just for once. Just let him make a game. David Cage is one of those really divisive people that most people hate him. But like you say, I'm really happy he exists and he's trying something and he's having a go. I loved Heavy Rain. It was one of my favourite games of the PS3. It was different, it was unique. It was basically a film that you play. But that was fine. I really enjoyed it. I was engaged, when the characters were in trouble, I was worried with them. When the particular scene where Ethan Mars has to hack off his finger, that was awful to play. That hurt me on the inside. I hated that, but that was the response I think that I should have done.
I can guarantee you it hurt him on his hand.
Yeah, that's true, on his hand part. But okay, so here's a quote. So when David Cage was interviewed shortly after this was shown at E3, this got a lot of flack off of people, and I think undeservedly. When he had a comment along the lines of, we're not trying to tell you something with the game, we're trying to ask you a question.
I think
that quote was taken so literally, oh, he's got nothing to say.
Yeah.
No, that's not quite what he said. He's asking questions to make you think about what you did, because this narrative seems to be, if the trailers have been believed, it seems to branch off in about 14 different directions. There seems to be a lot of variation to what you can do in each kind of area and scenario, and they're quite differing ways you go at it. So it's really more asking a question about what you would do, or how you deal with what you're given, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. It's different. Again, it's him trying something a bit out of the ordinary. He's not trying to tell you that big emotions about thing. And so the comparisons to probably my favourite so far game of the year. Spoilers for Game of the Year show. Nier Automata. That game has a lot to say, asks a lot of questions, and that's brilliant. I love that thing. I really love it. But this is taking a different tack, and it's having a different go at the same sort of thing. And people go, "Oh, it's just David Cage. He doesn't know how to deal with it. Look at Nier. It's way better." No, maybe let it come out first, then call it shit. I don't hold for calling things this, literally dismissing things because of who's making it.
Because it requires them to make assumptions that they have no business making. People are quick to do it when they want to get to the snarky comment that they post on a forum or on Twitter or whatever. They'll just make the assumption because it gets them to the joke or the punchline or whatever.
I just want it to get to the point where the thing that's turning the android sentient is the spiders from the internet.
But I think Twitter plays a big part in this. It's that urge to make the jokes first about it. And I know while we say you shouldn't write something off before it's come out, we've pretty much done that for this entire show so far. We've been slagging a lot of things off. But
I don't know that we have.
We've been having a reasoned discussion about them, but the knee-jerk reaction that his games particularly always get, and they don't always hit. Beyond Two Souls was by all account bollocks, but he was trying. And a lot of people had written that off before it had even come out, and that really just depresses me, because in a show where, particularly Sony show, in a show where a lot of this was, here's some AAA flash, here's a game where you run around and kill some stuff and there's a story, this seems to be different. It seems to be almost the indie game of this show. It's the game that's trying something a bit different. It's the game that is standing out because of what it's not doing rather than what it is doing.
You don't think this has got AAA flash?
It has got AAA flash, but in terms of what you're actually doing in the game, it's I would say vastly different to the sort of the feel of big action
Yeah.
boom. Like it's a different, it's the standout different thing from the show. But just to write it off without even just because it's David Cage, he's not the only one making the game, guys. There's a whole team of people, Quantic Dream are a lot of people, and I do think that they are trying to learn from, their mistakes or their shortfalls, or trying to double down on things that went really well. And if the game, the setting of the game doesn't look it's for you, fine. But I'm quite into the whole idea of the Android revolution almost. I want to see how this story plays out. I want to sit on the sofa and like with the what's it called, the PlayStation PlayLink. You can play it on your phone.
Yeah.
This looks like the sort of thing that would work really well with that, sitting on the sofa with a few of us and playing it with, 2 or 3 of us. I played Heavy Rain. Laura was with me, and we sat there and talked it through as we played it, and it was better for it.
It would be interesting if they baked into this something that I've seen on a few games in this regard. I think the Telltale games have started doing it as well, whereby if somebody was streaming this and people were reading along, that the big decisions could be made by the viewers. That'd be really interesting to see.
Yeah, kind of the mixer aspect to it, where the stream viewers get to have their say. I think there's definitely an aspect of that, and of course, like Heavy Rain, there's going to be multiple protagonists in this, so you also have the option of whether you do it with a phone or not. If there's 2 or 3 of you on a couch, each person takes control of one of the character's stories. So you're in control of what your character does, but your partner, your friend's in charge of what the next character does, and that means that you don't get to shape the story like a director. You get to inhabit it like a character, which is quite cool. I think so. The problem that I think David Cage runs into often is that he presents something that is either very simple or obvious to a lot of people he's in his audience as something that is new or complex, or they should be astounded by, and people then think, well, then the reaction becomes to ridicule, and I don't like that reaction. But saying that he doesn't want to give the answers, he wants to ask the questions, that's actually, I don't think there's anything ridiculous in that statement. I mean, I'm one who's very fond of thinking that a question tells you as much about the asker as the answer does about the person being questioned. And for him to say that, and to go into a story saying, I know what message I want to send with this story. Well, maybe the message is that there aren't answers. There aren't concrete answers to the problems I'm presenting. I want the player and I to have a dialogue and talk about the subject through this game, and maybe understand that there aren't easy answers for issues of race and gender, and in this case sentience and AI, and what it is to be human and what it is to have a soul and all that kind of stuff. There aren't answers for that, so why should he have an agenda or a message to send? Why can't his message be, I don't know the answers, no one knows the answers, let's see if we can explore this, the possibility of this kind of story.
Let's explore them together, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think maybe that's what he was trying to say, which is no new thing. I think that's the point of sci-fi, generally, to be honest. The point of setting something in an environment that is unfamiliar and futuristic is to be able to recontextualize modern day problems and political, social, cultural issues in a way that we get to look at them from a different perspective, so we're not inside them as we are in our everyday lives, and we get to maybe see them from another angle and understand that it's not as cut and dry as maybe we think it is. And I think that's a great thing to do. The other problem is, of course, that so last year, after the detective section where you're trying to talk the android down off the ledge holding the young girl, David Cage was interviewed and said, I think I've pulled it up here, so I've got it to hand, that he knows there's been plenty of androids in movies and games, but he thinks he's got a new perspective because the androids are good and the humans are bad. And the response to that from a lot of people, I think justifiably, was, what version of Blade Runner did he watch? Because clearly, if he thinks this is something new he's bringing to the table, something different, nuanced, and complex, he didn't get what a lot of people already got from a lot of, and not just Blade Runner, but a lot of sci-fi that revolves around androids and that aspect of what it is to be human, and Ex Machina recently, AI even. I know a lot of people don't necessarily like that film, but and even stuff like 2001: A Space Odyssey, there's AI in that. It's not the same kind of story, but it plays with what it is to be human in that.
Soma did it recently as well, very well.
I've just pulled 3 very well known, very well discussed examples. They are everywhere. It's bled into plenty of side stories in Mass Effect. Plenty of the main story of Mass Effect was about Quarians and I forget the Geth. All that stuff was about who's really the good guy and the bad guy here. These are synthetic life forms. What does that mean to organic life forms? All of that has been done, and that's not to say he can't present something interesting on it, but if he thinks maybe the androids are the good guys is the new thing he can bring to the table, that worries me slightly. That said, I think what I saw looks interesting. I'd prefer if it wasn't binary Paragon Renegade choices. Are you going to be violent? Are you going to be pacifist? And by the sounds of it, there was a meter there that was filling up as well. That worries me a bit.
Well, somebody said on one of the bits that I saw that they intentionally went into the playthrough and just went to choose the wrong decisions all the time.
Yeah.
And the game was very easy on them when they did the wrong decisions, and when they did something that was then probably more of the right decision, that bar shot up. Because there were 2 people. One of them sort of played it as if they were going out to do all the right stuff, and the other one was essentially being an arse.
Yeah.
And so it'd be interesting to see how they streamline that. But I presume that
I just
kind of
wish there wasn't a bar. The same as with Mass Effect, you end up playing to fill the bar and not playing the story.
You press the red button.
Yeah, that does worry me a little bit. That said, I know people that I work with who do play games a bit, but Heavy Rain is a game they sat down again with their other half and wanted to see the story, and therefore looked out Beyond Two Souls and found out about Until Dawn and played that. That's what these games can do. They're not mechanically heavy in the same way other games are, although there's definite complexity and difficulty there, and that forms part of the story as well. But there is a kind of choose your own adventure aspect to the storytelling, or a flexibility to the narrative that a lot of other games don't have, especially when we're talking about kind of Sony having this way of doing third-person action that is very cinematic and with a very scripted story to be told. This and Heavy Rain as well seem to want to eschew that in favour of, even if it is based on binary inflection points, if you string enough of them together, you end up with a vastly different feeling story, even if some of the beats are the same. And that always interests me. I just hope it pays off in a way that, obviously, there were some problems with Fahrenheit and with Heavy Rain that a lot of people have kind of chewed over and discussed and talked about, not least of all on Kane and Rince. With Jay, if you want to hear a rant, go and listen to
Is that
Jay.
the Heavy Rain one?
Heavy Rain. It was one of the very first ones we did, I think. It was one of the early Kane and Rinces.
No.
But yeah, Jay will cut loose on David Cage.
I'm sure that was not long after the Dragon's Dogma app that I did. Because the Fahrenheit and Heavy Rain were pretty much after each other. That's a modern day one.
Possibly. I don't know. I thought Heavy Rain was quite early. Fahrenheit definitely we did much later. But I thought Heavy Rain was quite early on. But I might be wrong. Perhaps you have shown me up as the fraud that I am. So someone who's not a fraud, and I was very pleased to see in Detroit Become Human, is Jesse Williams, who a a lot of people probably won't know, but to me, he is a great actor. Yes, I watch Grey's Anatomy, deal with it. I really like him in that show. I like his character in that, and was bowled over and moved to the point of tears by a speech he gave at an awards ceremony. So I've followed a lot more of his work campaigning and for activism and related to kind of Black Lives Matter stuff. And the guy is just wonderful in my eyes. Everything about him, I think he's eloquent and inspiring in many, many ways. And that, again, no patronization or anything there. I just think he's a wonderful man. And to see him rendered in this game that touches on notions of revolution and activism and that kind of stuff, I hope that there's enough nuance to the script and the story to do that justice. But pleased to see him in something else that I may enjoy.
Heavy Rain was Kane and Rince 100.
Oh, there you go. That's way
There you
after
go.
when I thought it was.
Ages ago.
Ages ago, yeah, absolutely. But that was end of year 2. We are now in year 6. So I figured that was within the first 50, but I was wrong.
So Destas 2, which obviously had its big reveal before this, and I don't know.
Because sometimes sci-fi can be about asking the big questions, and sometimes sci-fi can be about shooting the gun.
Nathan Fillion and guns, loot, loot, loot.
I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it happening now a week earlier than we thought it would. But there was, I think, the only splashes of this show were the questions where people were going, are you going to gimp the Xbox One X version because of your exclusive deal with Sony? And the answers weren't really great. So it's a strange deal, that in itself, the amount that's held off, and for the length that it's held off as well.
Yeah, Phil Spencer quite diplomatic when asked about that, but pointed as well. I thought he handled that quite well, to say that that's not something that Microsoft would do under his charge. There were, I think, a lot of issues at the beginning of this generation of what timed exclusivity would mean, what stipulations would be put on if a game was timed exclusive on Microsoft at 900p on the Xbox One. Would it be allowed to be? And he's very firm, saying that he doesn't like this. He doesn't want games to not be presented in their best form on each of the various consoles. So yeah, that was when he was talking to GameSpot, I think. Off the top of my head, I think it was when he was talking to Timur. And said, I'll try not to get into trouble saying this, and was as pointed as he can be while still saying, I hope that's not the case. The content's what you have exclusivity for. If it's timed or if it's exclusive maps or missions or whatever that you put on one system, then do that. But stipulating that a game is not allowed to run better on any other system, that
which is speculation at this point. But I think that with that exclusivity deal, though, there's been stuff that's still not arrived on the Xbox One that was there on sort of PlayStation from the start, I think. Yeah. Which is just really weird.
I might be wrong, but with Battlefield and Call of Duty and Battlefront stuff, it was always kind of like a month exclusivity.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
Division was the
Maps
same.
And stuff like that, yeah.
That's
which seems reasonable. That's kind of like, well, okay, if Xbox is where I want to play and it's a month earlier on PlayStation, then I'll suffer the month, but that's fine. It's just a month. But yeah.
See, I see this as like Sony's pushing to because I mean, let's be fair, the Destiny main platform is the PS4. That is where
100%,
the majority of the player base live. And Sony want to keep that. I think Microsoft being in a stronger position now than they were, 2 years ago. I think Sony want to keep that player base. I don't think they want to lose half the players off to the Xbox One S. They want to keep them on their system. I mean, half of them are on there anyway. But it's a good incentive to stay where you are. Here's some extra stuff again, and the extra stuff from the last one was, pretty good. The extra strike was cool. That's probably the standout thing of the content that I could see was, another strike, because the strikes are great. Strikes are really fun.
Yeah.
An extra PvP map, good if you like PvP, fine. Doesn't really touch me much, but fine. And, weapons and stuff, cool. A few extra exotics, fine, great, Speaking as someone who used to live on the other side of the fence, so back in the PS3...
You remember.
Back in the PS3 360 days, dear Christ, could we get an exclusive extra bit of content to save our life? No, we could not. I remember those dark times when everything had bonus stuff on the 360 that would either not come out on us or come out a year later. It was dark times. I hated it. And then kind of seeing things kind of level back out again. I think was it Batman Arkham Asylum that had the Joker thing that was not only on the PS3.
Only on the PS3, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the first one.
The one.
I ever saw. I was like, oh wow, wait, are we winning this time? Are we winning?
We turned it around.
We're winning.
I mean,
so being on the side that's now winning, I'm quite happy to see that, because it's more Destiny for me. Would I like to see it appear on the other consoles? Of course, because more content for everybody's good. But I think this is a hard play from Sony, saying, right, Destiny 2, we want our player base to be here, because I think the danger is, with Destiny being Bungie, a lot of the fan base, in the past would have been Halo players. A lot of the Halo players hey, cool, Destiny.
Yeah.
And if you've got a bunch of people that like Halo that want to be getting Destiny, naturally, in your brain, they're going to buy an Xbox One, because that's where both the things they want are. I think Sony's play here is to say, no, we want the Destiny experience to be on our machine. If we don't make some play here, there's no reason to buy a PS4 over an Xbox One if you want to play Destiny. And it's going to, they rightly, tagged that it was going to be enormous, and it was. I think it was a great move, and I think it's why the player base is there now. And I think this is just a continuation of that to keep people where they are.
I think it'd be interesting to see what happens with regards to the Xbox One X version. I'd imagine that it'd be pretty much directly on a par with the PlayStation Pro version. But because I remember even the original Destiny was still 1080p on the Xbox One, which was quite a rarity back then, because most stuff was suffering a little bit in the P's. But I do think it's strange if you've got that extra leap, if they don't sort of try and even create a little bit more of a graphical flourish, or kick in some more smoke effects or bloom, or whatever it is that distinguishes the most powerful of those consoles, and sort of takes advantage of what's there. If they are going to gimp it, and obviously this is pure speculation because they've not talked about it. And they buffered this away. But if they are going to gimp it for the sake of having an exclusivity deal with PlayStation and making the PlayStation version look better, and it's obviously got the extra content, so it's going to be the main version now. It's the biggest selling console, so most of the people that are playing it are over there as well. I think it'd be interesting to see how this one plays out, because I think there's more drama to come on this one.
This is obviously a complex issue. In my mind, I'd prefer that everyone got an equal access to all of the content, no exclusives. If you want exclusives, make them yourself. First party exclusive, third party, everything goes everywhere. That would be my preference, because I don't think little Timmy, who just got his Xbox at Christmas, should feel like he made the wrong choice by not getting a PlayStation 4. I think that's crap for gamers. Not everyone owns every system. Not everyone has the luxury of being able to choose the best version of the game they play. So I would much prefer that it was equal everywhere. It's not going to happen because you've got differences in the platforms. One's more powerful than the other. You get a discrepancy there, and that then needs to be righted in the eyes of the console, the platform holders. It baffles me, actually, that the notion that Bungie or Activision would go along with this, because if this were true, what they'd essentially be saying is, yeah, we'll make our game worse so that Sony can profit.
It's not going to look too good as well when the Xbox One X launches. if sales-wise, I guess, if you've got a game that's going to be have a reputation of not being all it could be on a box that people are essentially buying for all it could be and beyond.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I think the game gets hurt more than Xbox does on this, because actually, even if it's limited to 2100p or whatever it is that PlayStation can render at and then upscale, well, the Xbox can render at that and then upscale as well. So the worst case scenario is it looks the same on the Xbox One X, but it can load faster, so it still ends up unless they're going to tell me they're actually going to buffer the load times to make sure it's the same. One way or another, the Xbox One X is more powerful, so with the same input, it should be able to do more, and they would actually have to go real deep on some pretty murky stuff to get it not to. And it's also coming to PC.
With all bells
not
and
telling me
whistles.
they're going to try and do that with PC as well.
144 frame per second.
I'm going to run that on my i9 Extreme.
Ooh. So before we go, did anyone catch the Colosseum stuff about Destiny 2?
No.
Hosted by...
Yes, I did. You clued me
hosted
onto
by-
that, and it was a joy, sir.
Oh, sorry,
Isn't
yes,
it?
I
Hosted
did. I
by
watched it and
WWE Man, The Big Show of all people. Which
completely
I was
forgot. I was glued to it and tweeting
How
with
lovely
glee
was he?
how good it was. Yeah.
Big Show is such a nice bloke. Like in every kind of outside it, not wrestling interaction I've seen of him. Every time he's been interviewed, just as a person, not as the character, he's just such a cool, nice, normal person.
It was brilliant. There was a couple of kind of moments where I was. It was nerves on his part, I'm sure, but I was kind of like, have you been fed this jargon? Because it wasn't easy for him to sit on a stage and talk about something like this that he's not used to doing, clearly. But no, he seemed as genuine as could be, and what a lovely chat was had.
I thought it went really well between kind of himself, like quite an open sort of humble nerdiness, and like a little bit of showmanship. And he went back and forth between all of those, and it was. It was. Paddy tipped the hat to that. I'll say again that the E3 Coliseum was a triumph. There's a reason that the Big Jeff is the king of E3, and that can't have been easy to put together with the people that he got together. But 100%, that was an amazing conversation between those two.
Yeah.
I did like as well, just like a slight silly thing, but just consistently calling out Titans the entire show. Go on, my son! Worst class.
And then essentially being offered a part in the Destiny film as the Titan.
Yeah. If anyone could do it, it's him. But he Big Show revealed that he plays a hunter. Go on. Go on, best guy. Go on, you big boy. And they gave him the gun as well, which was cool.
They did. He was pitching for codes the whole way through, wasn't he?
I just walked off going, I'm going to get me some codes. Let's go get some codes, boy.
That gun was a lovely touch as well. Nice to give to a fan, and you know that he'll really, well, he already did. You could see it, that he would really cherish it. And
it's always strange when you get like a celebrity turn up on one of these shows and start talking about a game oh yeah, I really care about this game. Yeah, it's really important. But like, he genuinely came across as a fan. Like he was there because he wanted to be there. He came across like he was having fun. He wasn't like just a mouthpiece. He was generally guiding the chat, and he was kind of the voice of the fan almost. And they had the other guy whose name I'm completely forgetting on. I'm blanking on now.
Pete Parsons.
That was it, yeah, who was the voice of the game. So, you had that back and forward almost between the fans and the game happening on the stage. He was asking the questions that a fan would ask.
I was really worried that it was just the two of them, actually. I thought they would need more people up there from Bungie to keep the conversation going, and how wrong was I? No, it was brilliant. It was absolutely excellent. Lovely guy, and did a wonderful job. And, yeah, can we have more of that, please? Let's get people up there and show... not just the rest of the world, but actually let's show gamers that what a positive community they can have, and what positive influence games can be on people.
Yeah, especially when the man is 9 feet tall. So here's the thing as well, just like, because, this is going to be a quick wrestle chat there. He's actually in surprising form as well at the minute. You know, he's had a bit of a reputation in the past few years of being like a big, lumbering, slow guy. You know, he's not a small bloke. You know, he's got a bit of a tummy, but he has been working out to the point where he has abs now, and he wants to do a moonsault again. And for those who don't care about wrestling, which is all of you, a moonsault is when you stand on the top rope with your back to the ring and you do a backwards flip into the ring. He used to be able to do it when he was younger, and he can't do it anymore because he's too big, but he wants to be able to do it again. Go on, Biggers. Go on, Biggers. You'll break the ring again, but it's okay because it'll be set up and it'll be fine. It'll be absolutely fine. Every few years they do a break the ring segment where he throws someone and the ring breaks because they're both big boys, and they did it again a few months ago, and it was brilliant because they don't do it very often. But yeah, he's in a renaissance at the minute. And I'm really happy that he came across so well here because it's just nice to see him just enjoying himself.
Yeah, he seemed to be on the wheel all the time, and the audience as well seemed to really respond to it as well. Yeah.
Good crowd, as they say in wrestling. Good crowd.
So finally, from the director of Sunset Overdrive is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
What, really? I didn't expect you to be... I thought you were like, yeah!
Right. Okay. So... okay. The trailer was good. I enjoyed the trailer. I enjoyed everything he was doing with the webs. I enjoyed the fighting. It was funny. It seemed like Spider-Man. You know, all the web slinging stuff was really, really fun. The villain was someone from the internet, Mr. Negative. That's his name. It's either Negative Man or Mr. Negative, and it's like, oh...
Yeah,
okay.
Mr. Negative. He's not the only villain in the game, might I add.
No, they never are. There's always a few. Like, he seems to be working in, like, helping the Kingpin a little bit, which is fun. Like, I like that all the web stuff seemed to be, like, left hand, right hand again, where, like, holding both buttons would do, like, a thing with both hands. That was neat. I enjoyed what I saw of this. Why was this the last goddamn thing on the show? This was middle of the show, all over. Like, this was not... When they end a show, you want them to end on something massive or something like
Days Gone, a second trailer for Days Gone.
Yeah, but that was the big zombie flood one, and that's like, all right, fair enough. That had like a moment in it of like, oh, fair enough. You know, this is a cool thing they're doing here. But like, I played a lot of Spider-Man games, you know, as a youngster, and my favourite one, you know, which is not going to be a surprise for anyone, is Spider-Man 2 on the PS2 was the best one because it had that incredible web slinging in, and whenever they moved away from that, the series suffered, you know, and it just became a standard action game where you could fly about a bit more. I love that they're going back to how the old style of it, and the combat looked like kind of how I remember the combat in Spider-Man 2 being, even though I know that it wasn't. But I kind of look back on that game with the big rose-tinted glasses that, this was... it felt like you were Spider-Man, like before Batman Arkham. Like, this was the first one that made you feel like you were the superhero, flying around with all the powers and not just like... standard action game. It was a Spider-Man-ass game, and this looks like a Spider-Man-ass game. The combat looks a little bit, Arkham, Mordor, but that's fine because he's bouncy, and that works for Spider-Man. Like, that's exactly how he fights. He's all over the place. The fact they're mixing the combat and the web stuff all together, so it's not like you're doing it's a fight bit now we're doing a web bit, now we're doing a fight bit. It seems to flow well. I like the idea that he's never going to kill anyone, so there's going to be like animations put in where if you knock someone off a ledge, he'll kind of just whip them, with a trail. I like that. That's kind of cool, that's within character because, again, it's that thing, someone on the internet's going to find a way to kill someone.
I don't think so.
Webbed into the sea, lol.
They didn't on the original Driver, and that always had people jumping out of the way.
Yeah.
In Lego City Undercover, if you do manage to run over somebody, they'll lie there for a minute and just go, whoa! Whoa!
Yeah. Someone will find a glitchy, strange way of killing someone. It won't count. But this was cool. Like, I really enjoyed watching it. I think Insomniac are doing good work with this. I think it's great. But why was this the last game? They have nothing better than this to show, last. What else did they show? I'm just looking through the list again, but nothing's jumping out as huge on this show. And I think it's a problem that the show has got, is that it's not as big this year as it was last year or the year before. They just don't have something amazing to finish on, and this looks great, and I will probably buy it and play it because it's strange that it's a PlayStation exclusive for a Spider-Man game of all things.
Well, it's Sony, isn't it?
They've traditionally been on every system ever.
But this is Sony now, not
Yeah.
Activision. So they own film rights. They apparently own the rights to make games that, I guess, has defaulted away from Activision. And they're making use of that license to put it on PlayStation. And fair play to them. They've hashed out that deal with Marvel that now fully delineates what's going to happen in films and cartoons and TV and games with Spider-Man. And yeah, make the most of it. I agree. I'll be interested to see what CJ says, because I agree with pretty much everything you're saying, except the fact that this wasn't the game to end the show on. I think this is big. I get Uncharted 4 is huge, best game ever made, etc., whatever people want to throw at it in terms of compliments. This is, of the games shown, maybe not the one that stood out as the one that I want to play most, but actually maybe it is. Maybe looking back at all this lot, maybe it's certainly the biggest game that I want to play.
Outside of the fishing Final Fantasy game, obviously, right?
Yeah. But given God of War is not necessarily my cup of tea, still hedging bets on that. Destiny 2, not really, and also not Sony exclusive. Detroit Become Human, I think's it's too off to the side. It's too different from a big showstopper. The big showstoppers would be Horizon or Uncharted, and they just don't have a big one of them to come, or they're not leaning on Lost Legacy in that way, although it opened the show. I think this interests me more than Days Gone, I've got to say. I know that's just my taste, but also the response I've seen to this is hands down massive positivity. My only concern was the amount of QTEs and just how much, because I've tried over the years to explain why I think QTEs and context-sensitive interact buttons are a poor way of papering over the fact that you want to do something that the mechanics in your game don't allow for without introducing some one-size-fits-all mechanic. I don't particularly like it. I prefer games where the craziness and the spectacle comes from the way that pre-existing mechanics that you think you know how they work collide with one another and do something unexpected. That's probably not a surprise to anyone who knows that I like Souls games or roguelikes or stuff like that. And what worried me about the QTEs in this was, if you're giving me all the tools of a Batman Arkham, don't take away my ability to be creative with them by taking my options from infinite, or feels like infinite, down to pass-fail. I don't like that. I don't like that. Press this button or that's it. Well, it's just either the moment flows and I just feel like I've pressed a button so that the cutscene can proceed, or the moment I fail and the moment's shattered and the cinematic spectacle goes because because I failed.
Although, and I will just interject here, that can be incredibly funny, and there is a Spider-Man related reason why this is incredibly funny. In I think the PlayStation 2, the first Spider-Man game, there's a GIF that makes the rounds. Every time it comes up, it makes me laugh, of Spider-Man doing a QTE thing to jump in and save Mary Jane. So he kind of presses X to run up the building, and he presses square to dodge through the thing, and he jumps out to kind of shoot his webs, and it says press triangle, and you don't press triangle, and he just falls flat on his face and dies. And it is the funniest thing every single time. And for me, like, I completely get why people don't like QTEs, and I completely understand why they don't like them. But sometimes failing them is funnier than doing them. Like, you'll just fail just for a laugh, just to see what happens if you don't do it. And like, again, the Uncharted game's been really funny for this. Like, I'm going to not press X at this point and see what happens. He fell off the ledge and died. That was fun. Yeah. But I completely get why people don't like them.
Asura's Wrath is a game that I have an awful lot of love for, and it's pretty much all QTs. So done right, in the right way, absolutely. But I just feel like I end up feeling constrained by them, and the only outcome of note is it all went wrong and I'm frustrated now. If they're done in a way that interferes with the gameplay. And we went from a sequence that was very freeform combat, lots of using kind of traps and using the webs in different ways, which seems quite creative in the same way that Arkham Asylum's combat was creative. And I did just worry when we went into the cinematic sequence that it was QTEs and that could fall flat. And yeah, it could be funny and haha, Lara Croft gets stabbed 7 different ways or impaled 7 different ways. Isn't that funny? Not really. But it could be here because there's a sense of humor to the game, and they can certainly do something with that's fun. And it may be that failing the QTE doesn't fail the sequence. Maybe they find a creative way to do that as well, and find a different way to reward you for succeeding. But it turns out that those are only in very specific story sequences, and it's not going to be as pervasive through a lot of the game, which was music to my ears, I have to say. Because that was.
But then you get that thing where you're not ready for it, and you're playing the game, and it says, "Oh, press X." Like, what? Who? What? When? This game has these? Oh shit!
Yeah. So that was kind of music to my ears. I just want to know that I can go in and feel like Spider-Man and get to play with mechanics in that way that Arkham Asylum made me feel like Batman in a silly little way.
Hulk Ultimate Destruction made me feel like Hulk. Here's a bunch of toys that you can play with.
Yeah. So that was literally the only niggle I had, and otherwise this was a heck of a game to close on. Sony went out on a high after, I agree, not necessarily the most inspiring show, and especially if they pulled stuff, they obviously felt like they didn't need to inspire, which is a little disappointing, really. Jim Ryan's a plonker. CJ, we haven't heard from you. Are you Spider fan?
I will siege from this into like thoughts of the show in general, but I agree with James that this is a really big deal, and I think that this is the right place for it in the show. Didn't particularly do it for me. From the stuff that I saw, it was fine, but it just wasn't really for me. I think I think what affected it and the reactions that I saw afterwards were that because it was such a steady show, whereas Sony have always really brought it, is that the albatross in the room was the elephant around the neck. Was that people were wondering if there was going to be something to end the show because there'd been no real surprise in the show. And I think that's why a lot of the folks were deflated, because they were thinking that maybe a Bloodborne 2 was going to end it, or there was going to be something that we'd not seen that was going to sort of shake us to our core a little bit. But really disappointing show. I think it's if we've discussed Jim Ryan many times, but his attitude kind of seems to be woven into a lot of this level of kind of blah. And I understand the business decisions of maybe cutting some of those big games out and taking them to the PlayStation experience in the run up to Christmas, when the Xbox One X will have had its initial flurry. But this is why you should get a PlayStation for Christmas, and this is what's coming up. I can completely understand that, but from a punter's point of view, this is gaming Christmas. I don't think the presents were inspiring.
And to be clear, PlayStation Experience is too late for Christmas. That's first week in December. A lot of people have already done their shopping by that point.
But again, you're showing the trail of breadcrumbs leading forward.
Yeah, exactly. They need to start their holiday play here, and I agree that very weird show.
Patrick?
Yeah, exactly the same. I felt like they were building up to something at the end there, and again, that's why I think Spider-Man felt like the wrong game to finish on. It felt like they were building up to like, and a Bloodborne 2, or like, here's the first shots from Cyberpunk 2077, for instance, something like that. Like that would have been, crap! Like, look at this, like
something we haven't seen before.
Hey,
do you remember previously when they've done like montages afterwards, and people have gone, is there something going to be following this? No, the lights have come on. No, we're all supposed to leave now.
Well, here's the thing: in a year where, at the end of Ubisoft, with Beyond Good and Evil 2, I was a broken man. They kicked me right where, right in the feelings. And Sony usually the guys that do that. Shut up. Sony usually the show that gets that for me. The last couple of years, have been really good for that. I've loved staying up late. The evening of what was it? What was that? What was the year where we both sat up, me and you, CJ, and talked on Skype for 5 hours after the Sony show?
Can't remember.
Remember that? I think it was the PS4 reveal show. I think it was that one.
So the PS4 reveal show, they kicked Microsoft in the feelings, which was why I chuckled, by the way.
That was the one where they did the you can just share your game, because that was the bad Xbox year, wasn't it?
That was the one where they stuck it. They just took the points that everyone was like, "What are Microsoft doing?" and stuck it to them, and then put themselves in at $50 less than Microsoft.
I'm Jack Tretton, and here is my gigantic penis. That's what that show was.
But then they had another show where they had Shenmue 3 and Final Fantasy 7, which not for everyone, but those were big announcements that no one expected.
God, it was huge. I still remember that game trailer's reaction to that was just.
I remember that.
The guy who all but passed out.
Yeah,
3 a.m. eyes open. Twitter is imploding. What? Is this real? Am I alive right now?
Yeah.
What? And I got the joy of watching that the next day with Laura, and she's going, "What? Nah, what?" And I got to see someone else react to it, which was kind of fun. But yeah, this show generally for me was consistent. It had, in terms of bigness, it stayed about the same level all the way through, but.
Yeah.
Not a very diverse show. Very lacking in the indies, which I expect from them these days. And we're probably going to see more at the PlayStation Experience. But I would have liked to have seen them make more of a deal of it here. I think it lacked a boom moment. It's underwhelming, and I stayed up till goddamn 3 a.m. watching this, and to then finish on Spider-Man, be like, "Well, what's next?" And no, there's nothing more. No, what's next? Really, what's next? Nothing.
But it was also short, wasn't it? Really
very short.
It was quick. Yeah,
it was Bethesda-like in its shortness and amount of FaceTime with Sean Layden. He was on there for a total of 5-6 minutes total. It did a very, very similar thing to Pete Hines. He came out, he introduced a few things and pissed off for half an hour and came back out and went, "Cool, here's 1 or 2 more things and see you later." And then he went. That's terrible. Again, if I'd have gone to that show and sat there and just watched an hour of, let's be fair, average trailers this year. And then what was the point? Just again queue it up on YouTube and press play, and every now and again have a circus performer swing in from the roof every now and again. Just every now and again. Yeah. Laura summed up this show in the most disgusting way possible, and I mentioned this earlier, but we're gonna get to this now. So Sony's show, because of their reliance on games that we knew about this year, there was a big reliance. So Laura put it this way. They blew their load last year, and this year are just showing you what's on the tissue.
Oh, God. And on that bombshell.
Christ, it's just the most horrific description, but it's dead on.
Pretty much.
Yeah, nothing. I don't think we saw anything to show that was bam. Here's a thing we didn't show
you're
you.
right.
Even last year, we knew about all of this stuff last year.
Yeah, I was looking through actually. I do get your point about Spider-Man. I think it looks great, but you do kind of expect that bombshell at some point, and why not the end? And Horizon Zero Dawn, we didn't know about the Frozen Wilds, but we did know there was DLC very likely to be coming. So that's not a bombshell. Monster Hunter World, big bombshell, but also not PS4 exclusive. So there was no way they were going to stick that at the end, I don't think. Shadow of the Colossus. Our response to that collectively was why, basically. Yeah. So that doesn't cut it. And then it's either PSVR games or
God of War.
Other than that, we knew about everything. We knew about every other game, and it was just a case of seeing a bit more of it. Yeah. Yeah, no.
That's where the indies come in well. That's where the indies come strong. It's here's 12, the Xbox show. Here's 20 games you've not heard of. Oh, wicked, cool. All right, I'm going to look those up. Thanks.
That's on top of them actually getting prominence in the show itself as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like we were saying, I think the PlayStation Experience in December is going to be far better.
I think even Gamescom.
Gamescom, I think, is going to be better, but.
I think they have to ballpark the PlayStation Experience after this, unless they're happy with mediocrity, which is what they brought this year. And I've said before that the history of video game companies is somebody gets on top, they become sort of complacent, and somebody else comes and takes their place, and it's happened time and time again. So more fool them if that is the case. Anything more to add before we disappear? And I really need to get to bed.
I think I'm done.
It's been a good.
I'm really
natter.
sad. This is the first year that Sony particularly have let me down in a long time. And as Mr. Sony on this show, bums me the fuck out.
It'll come back around though for you, mate.
Yeah.
I think the goodies are definitely there, but they're not showing them yet. And I think that.
There's no way they don't hear the feedback on this and sort themselves out.
Well, I think a lot of our apathy towards the things that we've seen again is the fact that, and this is a criticism of the Sony shows in the past, that maybe they've shown them too early. Phil Spencer said about Scalebound that public expectation and hype killed that game. More than anything, because they couldn't make the game or the way that it was developing wasn't the version that people wanted, and they showed it far too early. And I know Xbox have said they've got some first-party titles and they've got some big stuff that's just not. They want to show it closer to when it's ready, it's fully formed, and when it's not too far away from release, rather than giving you something early, and that's something I'd like to see more of. And maybe this is the show that has to take the hit for a show that comes later,
in order
where
this
they go
is the step change where they have to have
Bloodborne 2 March 2018, and they show it off in December, and they go bang bang bang, and all of a sudden you've got these heavy hitters which are only like a year away. That'd be kind of cool.
6
so maybe
months
this
to a year.
maybe this is the show that there's a different mentality, but this is the one that has to take the hit for something more healthy to come.
But on a show where Microsoft, have really brought their A game this year. They've really gone hard on their show. I wasn't a fan of the Xbox One X stuff myself, but they went hard on it this year. I think Sony, for the first time in a few years, hadn't had an answer for them.
Yeah. And Microsoft showed a predominance of stuff that is this year, or at least before next E3. So, I could certainly go for that. I could go for not seeing a game at 2 E3s. I could definitely go for that. If you're announcing it at E3, it better be out by June the following year. Because we've seen too many games that have trundled out at, the Watch Dogs effect, trundled out at multiple E3s and just lost momentum. You can see the momentum being lost each time you see the game. So maybe you're right, CJ. I was thinking, as you were saying, maybe this is the one that has to be light in order to make sure that the surprises they had, in case they needed them, can be left to a more satisfying announcement time. Be that December, or be that actually not until next year, E3.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Thank you, James, for joining us again. Thank you, Patrick, as always. And next time...
thank you to you as well, I guess.
Oh,
yes, thank you, CJ, for being the hostess with the
Speakers loves and
the Maltesers.
Yeah. And join us next time when we'll be nattering about Nintendo.
Nintendo.
Bye.
Bye then.
Bye.
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 How are we all? Are we all ridiculously warm? Because I am.
Yeah, it's going to get worse tomorrow as well.
34, I've heard down here.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And then thunderstorms tomorrow night.
Oh, please. Oh.
Yeah, clear the air, and then it's like 2018 heading into the weekend. So
this is the most British conversation ever. The world is ending with idiots in power, stripping the world of things for the poor and the demanding. And here we are, like, oh, the weather is a bit warmer. There is a fiery ball of the sky, and things are going to be a little sweaty.
Well, there's a reason that is because as British people, see our temperate climate, our regular climate is kind of rubbish. So we build our houses to be better at holding in warmth because generally it's cold and crap. So when it's
What a
hot,
bunch of Trump lords.
our houses are crap at holding in like dispersing.
They're essentially greenhouses because
we
light
build
gets
for
in the
misery.
windows and heats them all up.
Yeah, we build for misery. So when you're in Spain, all the houses there are built to be, good in the heat. That's why whenever the sun comes out here, we all die, and people in Spain are like, it's totally fine, what are you talking about? Plus, our heat is more humid than other places. We have a very dry, humid kind of heat. And that is why I can complain all the way through the summer.
I never. Do you want to take the running of this one, Paddy, or do you want me to call
You
it as
can
we
crack
go along?
away, no, it's fine. Are we going to do the pre-show
Whip
before
crack
we do the
away,
main show?
whip crack away, whip crack away.
Whip crack away.
Thank you. Calamity Carts.
Are we going to do the pre-show as well?
Yeah, I'm gonna hand that off to James, I think,
Cool.
because his notes are detailed.
They are brilliant notes.
I think the pre-show is just going to be here's a list of games that Sony didn't deem important enough to put in the show, pretty much, isn't
There's
it?
more interesting stuff there than the main show, though. But let's not talk.
Yeah.
Let's not talk.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
press
cool.
the imaginary button. Click.
Do it!
Back to it.
Back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity.
I am back.
Hello.
Hello. That was delayed.
Sorry, I was trying to think of something witty to say and it just didn't happen.
Hello was a good response. I mean, that's
Hello, is it we you're looking for?
I mean, this is the Sony show, but a good try.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I get it. All right, okay. Great. It's too hot, man. Isn't
is.
it hot? Isn't it just hot?
It's just too much.
Like,
Bring on the
jokes
thunderstorms.
Oh god,
Back.
just one. Hi, just one good, really good storm.
I'll be stood out inside it.
Same.
Stood out in t-shirt and shorts, getting drenched to the skin, mouth open, lifted up to the sky. Probably I will get struck by lightning and I'll still be okay with it.
I remember one it's a really hot summer that had like this flash storm, so I went out in it and just like was walking down the middle of the high street, just like I am Thor, God of Thunder. I'm in charge, and everyone's hiding under the banner. I'm just walking down the middle, like, no, this is water. We needed this. This is beautiful.
This is me in my element. Yeah, absolutely.
I feel alive again, and then it stopped, and the sun came back out, and I kind of hissed and scampered back into my dark hole.
So to speak. Are we good?
Apologies, CJ. When I saw the message pop up on Skype, I assumed you'd gone to the loo. I do apologise for keeping you waiting with my rantings and rumblings.
I didn't wish to be rude or consider your opinions null and void when I was interested in them.
No, next time just go,
You're
stop
very
talking, keep that thought, I need to pee, and then come back and I demand you continue your thread, go.
No. Are we good then?
We're good.
Yes, yeah, all good. Yeah.
Good